Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, April 18th, 2022. First off, Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, before we approve the agenda, I just have a few announcements. In light of tonight's full agenda, please be advised that we will be extra vigilant with timekeeping and will be making every effort to move both Committee of the Whole and Council along in an orderly fashion. We want to ensure all topics listed on the agendas are covered, so thank you in advance for your cooperation in keeping comments succinct and discussions to an as-needed basis. It is with great excitement that we share Grinsby has been successful in investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, the Green Stream application. The $1.9 million received from the provincial and federal governments will be used to replace water mains, service pipes, and fire hydrants on Main Street and Elm Street. This work will help ensure Grinsby residents have access to clean and safe drinking water for decades to come. We would like to thank our provincial and federal partners, including MPP Oosterhoff and MP Allison, for their continued advocacy of Grinsby's application. We will look forward to getting started on this important work. On April 28th, the flags at Town Hall will be lowered in recognition of the National Day of Mourning. Observed annually since 1984, the National Day of Mourning allows us to remember workers who have suffered work-related disability, disease, and death. Our thoughts are with those who have suffered or have witnessed a loved one suffer as a result of a workplace injury, and it is our hope that through continued recognition together we can prevent further suffering. Need a mover and seconder for the approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Sharp. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that the April 18th, 2022 Committee of the Whole agenda be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Now we move to a council endorsement package, Heritage Grinsby Advisory Committee from April 12th, 2022. Councillor Dunst.
Could I lift that for discussion? Item 1 and 2 I'd like to talk about. 4A.
That's so noted. All right, we'll start with item 1, which is committee membership. Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, on last week at our Heritage Committee meeting, we talked about the vacancies, and it was suggested at the time that we try and fill those vacancies and also appoint somebody to replace Councillor Bothwell when she leaves after her resignation is complete. And in the interest of time, I don't see us being able to fill those 4 lay positions in a timely fashion, and in fact, I want to talk about that later on about the 100th anniversary. I had a meeting with Director Sweeney about that, and we've got some great ideas for the Heritage Committee, but we need to get kind of moving on it a little quicker. This is really time sensitive, the 100th anniversary, and by the time we have 4 people appointed, a lot of time will have passed by. So I'm wondering if we can just forego that and operate with the 3 lay people that we have now and the 2 councillors, including myself, on the committee. So that's the one thing I wanted to talk about, and the other one was the street name request for the Corneef Court. Maybe somebody has a question about the committee membership or some thoughts themselves, I don't know. But I'd like to, I would say, let's not go ahead with trying to find 4 members in this. We just don't have enough time at this point in time. I don't think staff have enough time we're going to be going into election mode next month, and there just isn't a good time to try and find four new members. Any of my colleagues have comments?
Councillor Bothwell?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. The existing members of the Heritage Committee did feel it was important to continue the work plan and the working groups, and they were excited to try to get these members on board, because otherwise they felt there was no value in moving forward with the work groups, as there's only 3 people. So, and that's, unless Councillor Dunstall is going to give up his time to be in the work groups. So there was a real desire that it wouldn't be effective to continue with the council-approved model, which was working groups between each statutory meeting. So I think it is important that those 4 members can be recruited quite quickly, like the library board just recruited as well for their position, vacant position. Special selection committees can be struck very quickly, and those members could be appointed, I think. Also, you will have a gap in July. So between now and then, I think that you can still do that. So I would recommend that we move with what the committee is recommending.
Councillor Sharp?
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. I tend to agree. There's a very short time left in this term, and we will be appointing new members to the committee. If the clerk can confirm, is that in December or January? Yeah. Maybe we advertise in December, or?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Most likely the recruitment will begin in December.
In December, so we're talking 6 months from now, and there's a bit of work to get involved in the committee, and there's a bit of commitment, and so to take on members, we have to almost take them on and commit to the next term, but it's not really decided who is going to be the council on the next term. We are heading into an election, so that's just my thoughts. I'm really not opposed either way. If we could fill the positions, it's not like there's any problem with that, but my question is, if we don't fill the positions, does it require an amendment to the bylaw?
Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it doesn't, because we currently meet the minimum requirements.
So we meet the minimum requirement for the bylaw?
At least, yes.
Okay, well, that's, we're guilty of burying the lead story. We meet the requirement for the committee for our bylaw. I didn't realize that. And I question, do we need to appoint people with only a few months left in the term if we currently meet the minimum requirement for that committee? Thanks.
Councillor Dunstall, you wanted to make a comment on?
Yeah, I'd like to ask staff if they could give us an idea how long it would take to recruit 4 new members. We're going to put together a steering committee. Are we looking at 30 days, 60 days? I mean, if we had some people by next month, I would think that would be sufficient, but for the working groups, but I don't see that happening that quickly. Maybe the clerk could comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, it would typically take a few months, in the sense that we would have to advertise for at least 3 weeks, and then we would have to get the hiring committee, which is usually the members of that committee, and go through the interview process and make a decision, and council has to approve the final committee members.
Yeah, so if this working group is going to get started on the 100th anniversary, there's a lot of time that's we're going to miss out on. And talking to Director Sweeney, we don't have a lot of time to get going on this, and I think the group that we have right now, the lay people that we have, will be excited about the ideas, and she wants to come and talk to the committee about the ideas that she's got for the committee for the 100th anniversary. So I'd like to suggest we get moving on that and forgo this membership drive at this time. So if I could put an amendment in or a motion to rescind this committee membership drive?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, so you want to put an amendment to not backfill the 4 members of the public, but we will proceed with council appointing a member of council to fill the vacancy once council, okay.
Yes.
Councillor Bain.
Thank you. I have to agree with Councillor Sharp and Councillor Dunstall. I think, first of all, there's a an elephant in the room here that nobody's breached yet, is that we're going into an election year and you potentially could be giving somebody special attention over somebody else. And I don't think that's fair, to be honest with you. And I agree. I think we already have committed people on there. We're going to add another member of council when Councillor Bothwell leaves in 7 weeks. I don't see the point of doing this now. I think it's a waste of time, and I think it potentially could be unfair. So I'm going to support it and not support filling those positions at this time.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Just a question, and it's been a number of years since since the last election, and I'm just asking the clerk about, the committee still, as the council becomes lame duck, the committee still meet during that time frame to do business and that? I apologize, it's been a long time since we've been through that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, committee, council will still continue.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm listening to both sides here, and especially with the time frame is, as Councillor Sharp mentioned, about 6 months or so roughly to the election, and we are at minimum requirements according to the bylaw. So, and again, as you mentioned, Clerk, that it's a couple months turnaround to get the process starting in that, approximately. Yeah. Okay. All right. Those are just my comments for now. Thank you.
All right, and just a point of clarification, council only becomes a lame duck council if a majority of the members decide not to run again. All right, so we have Councillor Dunstall as the mover. It's that one, right? Okay. We're just waiting for the clerk to finish up the resolution. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that Heritage CEP Item 1, Committee Membership, resolved that the verbal update regarding committee members' council decisions be received, and that council proceed with recruiting the 4 members of the public to fill, without recruiting the 4 members of the public to fill the existing vacancies, and that council appoint a member of council to fill the vacancy upon the resignation of Councillor Bothwell. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell?
No.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
No.
Councillor Cadwell?
No.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
No.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy? Yes. Mayor Jordan?
No.
That's defeated.
Now we move to the lifted item 2, the street name request, Corneef Court. Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, and I bring this up to, again, it's a time-sensitive situation, and the committee was concerned about why the developer picked Kittling Ridge. Well, I understand from talking to staff that it was picked out of a list that we approved previous as a council. So I don't know why we need to defer it and have this not decided tonight. I think we can decide tonight whether we feel it should be Kittling Ridge Court or Corneef Court. The Corneef family had sent a letter requesting we reconsider calling it Kittling Ridge Court to Corneef Court with a nice letter, and I have no objection to either. Again, council had already approved a list of names, and Kittling Ridge was on it, and the developer had picked this. So, in the interest of time, because the development needs to be registered, and they need the street name before they can register the subdivision, so I think we need to make a decision tonight as a council. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thanks again, Mayor Jordan. Kittling Ridge was not a name that was presented to Heritage Committee or Council that I'm aware of. It was not brought up at our Heritage meeting. That rationale that Councillor Dunstall is saying was not provided to the committee. The previous list of names was in a report. I did read it out at Heritage at the Heritage Committee, and Kittling Ridge isn't one of them. The members did want to go back on this, and we're not comfortable with moving forward with Corneef without staff having provided us with a report as to whether their facts were correct on the history of the Corneef family, and that has not been done. So we like to do our due diligence. This was only doing our due diligence to make sure that the street name was appropriate. The other thing I would ask staff and the clerk, I would like to go back to the clerk to put in an information request at this time. At the November 1st Committee of the Whole, we were fully aware that the street name, there was no street naming policy. I put a resolution forward that was carried by Committee of the Whole and Council November 1st that says, whereas in the absence of a formal policy has historically resulted in ad hoc or inconsistent policy on matters regarding street naming and administrative corrections. This was with respect to the Sobey Road was the issue at the time. And that whereas the municipal act is silent on the matter, therefore be resolved that staff be directed to research street naming policies and best practices and report back to council in Q2 2022 with a draft policy and bylaw for consideration if possible. So I've seen nothing on that update on the street names policy. And we're now in this situation where we're stuck again. I believe planning staff could have brought this to us, to the Heritage Committee back in November if there was this pressing need to have the street named, and it wasn't. It didn't come in January to our committee, and it's only coming now with this timeline that it had to have been decided immediately. So I'm confused that, well, I'm not confused, I'm just concerned that the November 1st resolution has not been addressed and there is no street naming policy, and I would ask the clerk to put that in as an information request for an update, please. Thank you.
Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Maybe I misunderstood staff, but I was under the impression it was on a list from last year. So if staff could answer that for me, that would be good. The other aspect of it, and this is the Corneef letter, is if you could imagine if you write a letter to the town about your family history, I don't know how we're going to do a report on whether or not their family history is what they say it is. I'm not sure how we go about that. I mean, are we going to collaborate to all our family history when somebody brings their own family history to the town about their own family history? I don't know how you go and verify whether they're telling a story or if it's factual. And I'm sure it's factual. I'm sure it is, but I don't know how we're going to bring a report to find out if it's factual or not. And again, we're in a time-sensitive position right now with that subdivision, and it is important that we get a name on that court sooner than later. And so that's why I brought this up tonight to see if council could make a decision.
Hi, Bianca. I see that you're here and your hand's up. Go ahead.
Hi. everyone. I am recovering from COVID, so my voice is a little raspy, but I'll do my best to cover all those questions. So first, I want to start by saying I understand that this seems that it's coming last minute, but just so everyone's aware, the committee was presented with a list of names in September of last year, which were thoroughly reviewed by the Historical Society, and those were area-specific names. The committee decided, because of some of the different communities, we have issues that come up with last names, they thought maybe we should stay away from it, and that they decided we would look at Indigenous names and potentially tree names if the Indigenous names didn't work out. Indigenous consultation is very robust, takes a lot of time, so it's something definitely on our radar and something we're working towards. However, it's not something that can be done in an ideal time frame. And because of this, the developer chose Killing Ridge, which was pre-approved by council about 3 years ago. We had a big list that was made. And so those are still active, those ones. So that's about 3 years ago. It was approved. And so the developer chose Killing Ridge from that list of names because we didn't give them a name after that Heritage Committee meeting. And so it seems time sensitive, but we have given the committee since September. The street naming process that we agreed upon is that we consult with the archives, get their historical information. We present it to the Heritage Committee. They make a recommendation. That recommendation comes to council. So we do have a process in place. We are happy to continue to do some benchmarking if we'd like to improve that. But that is the process currently in place. I'm just checking my list here. The developer picked Killing Ridge. That's the name of the court that would be moving forward with. Again, approved by council. It's an older list, but they are still approved and verified by the region. And so if that name if Corneef isn't chosen tonight, they will be sticking with Killing Ridge. Corneef family brought forward this request, so we're dealing with it as like an isolated item, that this is a request about changing Killing Ridge to Corneef. It's not about the general naming of the streets. And so I just want to provide that clarification. And then for the history of the family, we didn't find any concerns with it, and they have been on that property since that time, and we are familiar with the produce company. So that's kind of the background I can provide at this time. I hope that clarifies some of those pieces. Thank you.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. This is probably a question for Bianca. Bianca, this is Councillor Dunstall noted that the developer needed this approved so that they can continue with their project and be able to register it. But I don't hear in any of the comments that you said so far that would stop the development or and for the developer to move ahead and do what he needs to do. Is that correct? It doesn't need to be registered for it, have a registered street name for him to proceed with his development. Is that correct? I see Walter just came on as well. So if one of you could answer that question.
Walter?
Sure, I'll defer to Walter.
Walter, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The registration of the subdivision is to take place. The names of the roads are actually included in the registered plan. So that's when the subdivisions are registered, that's how the names are given to the various streets that are within the plan itself. So in this particular case, there are 3 streets. Two of the streets are existing streets that are extensions, and there is only 1 street that is required to be named, and that's the particular court that we're subject to the discussion. As Bianca has indicated previously, the applicants have the developer has chosen Killing Ridge Court because it was one of the names that was given to them from a pre-approved list given by council and pre-approved by the regional emergency services. So they chose that one primarily because the names of the streets within the area are wine grapes, and this is a name that's associated with that. So that's why they chose that name. Again, as Bianca has noted, as this was going forward, the previous owners of the lands, had indicated to us that they were hoping to have the court named after their family, which has been on the property for a period of time. And that's how it came forward. It came forward as a request by them to us. It wasn't, again, as Bianca had noted, it wasn't a procedural issue with regard to how we name streets. It was a request put forward by the Courtney family to have that court named after their family who has been on the property for a significant period of time. Thank you.
So I understand all of that, Walter. Thank you. One of my question is there, I understand from Councillor Dunstall that the developer needs to have this name registered for the street now in order for him to move ahead, but that's not true, right? I mean, he can continue to do what he's doing and with his development, and the name of the proper name of the street or the approved name of the street can still come later. Is that correct?
Yeah, the name of the street will be Kittling Ridge unless council resolves tonight to have it named something else.
And we have to decide tonight? We can't, should we not let staff do their due diligence like they were doing?
If council deems appropriate to name the street something other than Kittling Ridge Court, then tonight is the night to make the decision or the recommendation. Otherwise, it will be Kittling Ridge Court. That is the name that was given to the developers from a pre-approved list from the region and the town.
Yeah, I think I go along with Bianca's idea. We should just continue down the road we're going. I don't think there's any point in going backwards at this point in time. Anyway, thank you for your responses. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. I guess I have two questions. What's the date of that list? When did it come to council? Because I don't recall it.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead, Bianca, thank you.
I'll have to double check it. I want to say roughly, I would say like 3 years, maybe a little bit before that. I know because we had other staff members on the team that brought this forward. So I would say about that timeline, and I know it was this council, but or more in the earlier days.
All right. I guess for me, I prefer to have this referred back to staff and do our due diligence. Personally, I think that, our history gets eroded, and this is one way to, entrench it in a certain respect. I hear all the time from my mother-in-law about how she came into town on a tractor with my husband and brother-in-law, where the fruit trees used to be in Grinsby. So, and all that's gone. And I get that we move forward and it's good that we move forward, but I think we need to protect some of our history, and this is one way to do it. I know we already have an area very close by with grape names. So why not just why not find a way to protect a bit of that history so that people know that before it was this development, it was a large property that was in a family for many years. I mean, it's, although Councillor Dunstall said, well, anybody can say and got to research their history, but there's only a few families that have history that long here in Grimsby. So I think it's important that we try to preserve that. So I would support our due diligence being done, and actually I would support Corneef if we had to decide tonight. But from what I gather from what Mr. Basic is saying, we really do have time. There isn't anything that says we have to do it tonight. You never actually came out and said that, so I'm assuming then it's not exactly the case. So I'd suggest that we either go back or do our due diligence or go with Corneef. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell.
Quickly, the home goes back to the Moore family, and when the home was originally put on the designation list, not designated, but on the register. So there is a strong connection to the Moore family, and that was one of the approved names as well, although the committee did go back and ask for other potential Indigenous or tree names. I would like to again reiterate that there is no street naming policy, although Bianca believes that there is. We have an informal one. The resolution that I put forward still stands because Public Works did say that the town does not have a formal policy or process for street renaming, and there's no procedure to correct administrative errors or oversights, and no formal policy has. It's been ad hoc. So that resolution that got passed November 1st by council stands, and I do hope and expect to see a staff report on researching street naming policies and best practices to report back to council. So I'd like to ensure that the clerk notes that that is still required. Thank you.
Walter?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification, the registration of the plan, we have received many applications for building permits for lots within that particular development. Building permits cannot be issued until the registration of the plan takes place, and that's expected within the next week or two. So that's, again, reiterating, that's, as the chair of the Heritage Committee has indicated, that's the nature of the urgency. The registration of the plan is imminent, and including the name, the ultimate name of that particular court is important. There are relatively few lots on that court, but it is important to have the name of that court. Otherwise the procedure of renaming the court is problematic potentially, and it involves passing a bylaw and things like that. So the name that was requested and approved by council previously is going to be included on the plan that's registered, and unless council says otherwise, or the committee says otherwise tonight, we'll be going with Kittling Ridge in, because the plan registration is imminent. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. My question is if council's approved the list of names, taking any other process, would that not be a reconsideration of a motion?
Sarah? Well, just while the clerk's looking up that, I really support the names of historical families. Certainly, there was a development that was originally going to be called Jordan Heights, and it now is called Heritage Lane. Okay, go ahead.
Again, I asked if it would be a reconsideration of a motion. So no opinions matter if it's considered reconsideration. We'd have to have a vote to put it on the floor to change the name.
Yes, and the clerk is taking a look to see whether that was actually on this term.
Speak to it.
Point of clarity, Mr. Mayor. I'm just saying that I think planning should produce the list because none of us can seem to recall it. And we're discussing whether it's a reconsideration or not. I don't recall this list. I don't know what else is on it. if we approve the list of names, I don't know, was Corneef on it, was something else on it? Like, I want to see the list, I want to know the date of the list, if we're going to be looking at it as a reconsideration. Or if it has to be a reconsideration. Was it even in this term of council? And had that list gone to the Heritage Committee like it should have? Did we have a Heritage Committee at that point? So, you know, I mean, I don't want to delay the process, but if we really want to, if Councillor Ritchie really wants to press this
The
point.
point of order, there was no process to go to the Heritage Committee.
Then I
at the time.
think, please don't interrupt me.
Well, then
Please
stick to the
don't
topic.
interrupt me.
I called a point of order, stick to the topic,
The topic is being discussed.
not
So-
the process.
Please
All right,
stop interrupting
both of
me.
you stop the crosstalk. The clerk is trying to find out whether it was, or when it was discussed, whether it's this term of council or previous term of council.
Mayor, are you allowing any other comments?
Does Richie allow any other comments? He's already told the mayor he can't talk.
Councillor Cadwell, go ahead while the clerk's searching.
Thank you. Yeah, I like the idea.
Order. How is it that Councillor Ritchie says the mayor can't give a comment, yet you were able to give a comment right now?
The mayor's allowing me to comment.
Well, then,
What he said.
well, then the mayor, then I can comment as well.
No, we're going to move to Councillor Cadwell right now. Councillor Ritchie did not want me to take part in the debate, so that's why he called for a point of order. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is my first time to speak on this, too. So I do like the idea of the Corneef Court. I just think back to, again, there's a lot of history with that family, a lot of legacy, too. I think back to when the Vandenberg family developed the subdivision, maybe about a kilometer or a kilometer and a half to the west. And that family had a lot of history in Grimsby. They did a lot of fundraising. They sold pumpkins for cancer for a number of years. So, and they were given the opportunity and allowed to have their name on a street sign, as in Vandenberg Lane. So I think the Corneef family deserves that, having that title too. So, and again, I know it's, if it's time sensitive, we can't get it done tonight, but I will be supporting the Corneef family, Corneef Court as a name only in that subdivision. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell, I believe your hand was up. Or,
Sorry, no.
okay, all right. The clerk's still searching. We've had a lot of business in the last 3 years. Councillor Vardy.
Mr. Basic said that this needs to be done in the next couple of weeks. Could we not come forward at the next council meeting with the report from planning and make a final decision at that time? Then personally, I support the Corneef name. If we need to back it up with a little bit of research, which should be very easy to do, given that this family has had such a prominent place in Grinsby's history. Why don't we do that? It still suits their timeline, and they do the work that's required, and, you know, we still make a timely decision. Should I pass a motion to that effect? Propose a motion to that effect? Can I do that?
Walter, would that be okay? For that be approved at council, directly at council in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to get that approved at the May 2nd meeting directly to council. I think obviously there's some question here whether what's going on and what needs to be discussed with our policy. So I think most of council doesn't have a clear answer. So, Walter?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to maybe provide some clarification. In terms of the list of names that was provided to the developer, that list of names, it was basically a list that was approved to provide to the developers. Council did not approve a name for this court, right? So if council decides now, or committee of the whole through council in a couple of weeks, decides now to give a specific name, or I don't believe it would be reconsideration. It was just because we're not changing the list that was provided to the developer. The council never voted on a specific name for this particular court. So maybe the clerk can address that. But in terms of the timing, I think if we get a decision to name this particular court by next council, I think that would still be a reasonable time frame to do that, and still reasonably register the subdivision within a reasonable time frame. Thank you.
Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's difficult to comment right now because we can't find the actual resolution, and I really need to read the resolution to see when it was passed and what the wording was to be able to determine whether it's reconsideration or otherwise. So I'm finding difficulties finding it on the spot right now.
Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I do think that we passed a motion with a list of names, and I think the reconsideration would be if we change the process. I would agree that council has the right to select any name because no name's been put forward, but rather just a list of names. But to go to any other committee or anywhere else, I would think that would be a reconsideration if they're bringing names forward. Council has approved the list. So if we don't have that list, I do think that we have the option as a council to choose a name amongst this council because we've never given a name. So that would not be a reconsideration, but I think doing a different process would be considered a reconsideration.
Councillor Frake?
Yeah, Councillor Ritchie noted that he thinks it was a list. We don't know for sure. We don't have it yet. But the question to Walter is, if there's a list, does exist, and the name is on that list, if we just approve the list, does that give the developer the right to choose which name he wants, and we just go with that? Is that the way it works? Or do we have to approve the name, a name for the developer tonight? Do we have to select and approve that name? Make any sense? Is it, shake your head if it's not.
Yeah, no, I'm asking, I'm waiting for the mayor to direct the question.
Go ahead, Walter.
Yeah, thank you. To answer that question directly, yes, the whole process was designed so that we wouldn't have to wait for council meetings to make a decision on a particular name. So that's why a list was approved, so that we could just directly give the list to the developer to choose and insert on the plan that's to be registered, and that's how the name is actually officially assigned, by including it on the plan that's registered.
So assuming there's a list that exists and Conif is on that list, and we just go back to the developer and say, okay, pick the name off that list, and if they pick another name other than Conif, is that the name we have to go with and approve at the next meeting? Or can we just tonight decide on what the name of that street should be, and he would have no choice but just to go with that? Is that correct? Is that the way it works?
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The developer actually did pick from the list, and what the previous owner has relayed to us is that they were hoping that council would overturn that decision by the developer and include their name on the registered subdivision. So that's the little quirky thing. So normally you would see it. So normally the subdivision would have been registered, the mayor would have signed it, and the name would have been there. But in this particular case, the previous owner had come forward and asked for council to consider actually changing the name to be their family name that has owned the property for a significant period of time. So that's the quirky situation here. It was basically a request by the previous owners to have their name included instead of what the developer had chosen.
Okay, so on the piggybacking off of Councillor Vardy's, I think she made a resolution with no seconder that we call this Corneef Court. Can I second that motion and we have a vote? Because I'd like to do that. Mr. Mayor, Clerk, sorry, Walter.
Yeah, I think the resolution on the floor is to defer it to the council meeting of May 2nd because we need more clarification. Councillor Dunstall?
Thank you, Mayor. So if we go ahead with that motion that's on the floor and it comes to council, we'll be able to ratify it at that council meeting and they can go ahead and register the subdivision? Is that correct? So it's not going to go back to committee of the whole on the 2nd, it'll come to council and we'll ratify it then? Is that the idea?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Councillor Sharp?
I was just going to second the motion that Councillor already put on the floor. And if I can, I'd like to call the question.
Question has been called. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that the Heritage CEP item 2, street name request, Corneef Court, be deferred to the council meeting of May 2nd, 2022. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell?
Yes.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
Yes.
Councillor Cowell?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
That's carried.
We have a mover for the next resolution, just need a seconder.
Mayor Jordan, if I could just ask where we are on the agenda?
Yet we're moving the Grinsby, Heritage Grinsby Advisory Committee endorsement package. The amended.
If you would allow me, I'd like to reconsider my vote from item 1.
We can't do that.
The committee membership. I'm in the majority.
You can have a reconsideration
I
of the
thought
same
we had a
meeting.
bylaw that said we can't have a reconsideration of anything passed within 3 months of that vote. I believe it was actually Councillor Ritchie that had proposed that we have a bylaw about reconsideration, and there's a time frame for it.
Point of clarity, no, there is a reconsideration allowed at the same meeting if you're considered in the majority.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, under procedural bylaw, to kind of re-vote, you would have to request a reconsideration of the matter. So a motion for reconsideration at the same meeting requires majority. If it was in a subsequent meeting, it would have been 2/3. And you would have to be voted in the majority.
Yeah, I'm aware of this. Mayor Jordan, may I reconsider?
Yeah, the clerk will draw up a reconsideration. Just need a seconder for the reconsideration.
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, second by Councillor Bain. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Bain. Resolved that the item on Heritage CEP, Item 1, committee membership be reconsidered. Recorded vote?
Sorry, Mayor Jordan, do we allow any discussion?
So under through you, Mr. Mayor, so under the procedural bylaw, it should have no further debate on matter already decided at the meeting.
Could you read the actual motion? Not the reconsideration? Or so we don't have to vote to reconsider, we just have to, I can just reconsider the motion?
We would need to vote for a motion for reconsideration. So to proceed with the vote, Councillor Bothwell?
Point of clarity.
Go ahead, Councillor Ritchie.
Through the reconsideration of a matter, it says no discussion until motion for reconsideration passed, except that the mover of the motion for reconsideration shall be permitted to make a brief and concise statement as the reasons which they believe justify such reconsideration. So I would understand that Councillor Sharp would have an opportunity to make a brief statement.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Go ahead, Councillor Sharp.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. So I've been thinking a little more as we went through this and the next topic, and I'm concerned that there's not enough time. I think that we're going to take time away from the current Heritage Committee to essentially force them to find new members of the committee. They're tied up with the 100-year anniversary of the town of Grimsby incorporation, and I don't want to take time away from the current members to make them select new members for such a short period.
All right, I'll read the reconsideration again. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Bain. Resolved that the item on Heritage CEP, Item 1, committee membership be reconsidered. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell?
No.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
No.
Councillor Cowell?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
No.
Mayor Jordan?
No.
That's carried.
Point of clarity, could I ask for a point of clarity?
Go ahead, Councillor
Okay,
Dunstall.
so if somebody voted in the affirmative for the motion, and then the reconsideration voted against it, does that doesn't make sense to me.
They can vote.
They can change their mind
Yeah,
then?
absolutely.
Okay. All right, I just wondering. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we're about to take the vote again.
Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that the verbal update regarding committee members' council decisions be received and that council proceed without recruiting the 4 members of the public to fill the existing vacancies, and that council appoint a member of council to fill the vacancy upon the resignation of Councillor Bothwell. Recorded vote.
Councillor Both.
Clarity, Mr. Mayor? I think we're allowed to have a discussion. I'd like to ask a question on this matter.
Yes, we're allowed to have discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I wanted to ask staff the question, since the Heritage Committee is meeting quarterly now, would we have the 4 individuals replaced by July, number 1? And the second question is, if they're not replaced by July, we'd only have 1 more meeting, I would assume, before the end of the year. So we're essentially looking for 4 people for 1 meeting. Am I correct in this statement?
Bianca, go ahead.
Through you, the mayor, I'm not sure if Clerks wants to weigh in, but I would say on average, it took us about, at a minimum, I would say I believe it was over 2 months last time, just to get the time to make all the advertisements, then have them out for about 3 weeks, we had mentioned. And then we needed to coordinate the committee, and then we have to coordinate times to work for the committee member that are applying, as well as the people on the selection committee, which takes some time. Then we have to take it through to the formal process through to council, and then we likely won't have it for July. So we would be implementing them at that, I think it's September is the next one. Oh, no, sorry, it's October. So, yeah, it wouldn't be until then. Yeah.
So they would be at the October meeting, then the meeting after that would be January, when we probably would have a whole new committee altogether. So we'd be making this not that we should be looking at it, but I think we would be more advised to put our resources into the next round, as we're going to do a recruitment, say, November, December anyways. I think it would be more advisable to hold off and wait till then. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I think that it is important to recruit for 2 reasons. Quorum, 3 out of 5. If you don't have your 3 members there, you don't have quorum, you're not going to have a statutory meeting. So I really, really feel it's important that this Heritage Committee felt it was underserviced in getting the work done. That's why planning staff recommended we actually put 4 new members on. So we're now back to where they said it wasn't workable. And I really think that this is critical. It can be done. It just has to have the will to move this recruitment process forward. Library's done it twice now. I mean, it's just a matter of making that a priority, getting that stuff going. And I believe it can be done. And it's 8 months before they're actually going to be replaced anyway. So I think it's a critical committee, and I really feel these positions need to be filled. Thank you.
Councillor Bain.
I respectfully disagree with those comments simply because we've asked our staff to do so much this term. I think we're really getting into overkill now with what we're asking staff to do. Bianca's made it very clear it'll take several months. Councillor Sharp has made it very clear it's for 1 meeting. Again, as I said before, it could give a potential advantage to a potential candidate, which is not fair to other ones. I have a lot of problems with this, so I'm going to stick with my vote. Thank you.
Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to reiterate that this is a time-sensitive situation, especially with the centennial celebration, and I don't know if Director Sweeney is in the background listening at this point, but if she is, would waiting till July to do anything with Heritage for the centennial celebrations be prudent at this point in time, or should we move ahead in the next month or next 30 days? Because, again, we just don't have a lot of time right now. And it's a really nice project for the Heritage Committee.
Clarification, Mayor?
Councillor Bothwell?
The Heritage Committee is moving forward with the 100-year and working with Director Sweeney. It's totally outside of this agenda item, totally outside of it. The committee members are working with Director Sweeney on it, and it is not contingent on this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify that statement there. I thought it's more about time request on the volunteers, not that whether they're working with Director Sweeney or not. It's that if they're going to be involved in the process of recruiting individuals and working on the 100th anniversary of our town, there would be additional time requirements on the individual members. Am I wrong in saying that, or?
Bianca?
Through you, the chair. So these working groups would be with the committee, and we talked about potentially working on the 100-year anniversary during those working group times. The selection committee is made up of, I believe there's a member of the committee and then a member of council that's on the committee. I'd have to double check the terms of reference for those. Selection from them wouldn't be as time consuming as it would be on our end, but I think the timing discussion was if there would be, like, if we would want to recruit 4 people for only a couple months instead of saving their membership for the new term of council. I think that was more of the timing in question. Thanks.
Seeing no further questions, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that the verbal update regarding committee members, council decisions be received, and that the council proceed without recruiting the 4 members of the public to fill the existing vacancies, and that council appoint a member of council to fill the vacancy upon the resignation of Councillor Bothwell. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell?
No.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
No.
Councillor Cadwell?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
No.
Mayor Jordan?
No.
That's carried.
Now we move to the remainder of the Heritage Grinsby Advisory Package. Seeing no questions or comments, moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that the Heritage Grinsby Advisory Committee Council Endorsement Package be approved as amended. All in favor? Actually, that looks like we may as well do a recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell?
No.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
No.
Councillor Cadwell?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
No.
Mayor Jordan?
No.
That's carried.
Just a question. That was for the Corneef that we just voted on too, right?
Everything is meant.
So the councilors just voted against the Corneef? So they voted against the deferral of the Corneef on that, and they voted against item number 1. So I just wanted to clarify those. That was for both the Corneef and the, that they voted no to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so the 2 resolution.
Could you reread the call of that vote to the clerk? Which councilors voted no?
point of clarification, the clerk, I think we voted on the Heritage Committee endorsement package as amended, which included both of those two lifted items.
So we were just voting on both the Corneef and?
On all
four.
correct?
On all, yeah. Could you read
On all of them.
Could you read the call again? Specifically, the councillors who voted against it?
Sorry, the motion for the Corneef one was a motion to defer it to the council meeting on May 2nd, and that was unanimous.
We just voted on. We just voted on the
For the
item
whole
number.
CP package?
Yeah.
So the resolve that the Heritage Grinsby Advisory Committee Council endorsement package be approved as amended. The amendment would be the two motions, one that was passed unanimously to defer the Corneef
So
matter.
both of those are in that motion?
Yes.
And some of the
including
council
other
voted
two out of the
against
four.
it? So if that was defeated, that would defeat the Corneef property as well?
If this was defeated, but it's passed.
It was passed, but there were several councillors here who voted against it? Can you tell me which councillors voted against it?
Actually, we have a long agenda tonight, so we're just going to move forward.
So what does the procedural bylaw say?
Pass me the next.
Can you recall the vote? Can you read me the vote, clerk?
No, we're not going to do that now, so
Okay. So there were several councillors that did, but
all right, now we're moving to the rest of the, or adoption of previous minutes. I need a mover and seconder for adoption of previous minutes. Need a mover and seconder for adoption. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Bain. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Bain. Resolved that the Heritage Grinsby Advisory Committee minutes of April 12th, Grinsby Green Advisory Committee minutes of March 30th, and Grinsby Public Library Board minutes of March 9th be received. All in favor?
Yay.
That's carried. All right, now we move to our consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to lift 7.1A.
I'd like to lift 7.1B. No, 7.3. 7.3A and 7.3B.
7.3?
7.3A, 7.3B.
Okay. There's only a 7.3A.
Then Appendix B. So you got 7.3A, Public Works. Sorry, there's two items in there. I want to talk both items, so 7.3A. Thank you.
Any further lifting? All right, so we have 7.1A lifted, 7.3A lifted. Need a mover and seconder to approve the remainder of the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Dunstall. Second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Dunstall, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the Committee of the Whole hereby approves the following items and that the various consent items be approved on the recommendation as contained therein. HR 22-01, disconnecting from work policy. TC 22-08, municipally significant event, Grinsby Secondary School reunion. FIN 22-11, 2022 tax levy and tax rates. DRS 22-08, Parks, Recreation, and Culture Information Report. DRS 22-07, User Fees and Charges Update for Recycling Containers. BLDG 22-01, Building Department Activity. PA 2212, Planning Touchpoint. And that's it. Yeah. All right. All in favor?
Yay.
That's carried. All right, now we'll move to 7.1A, Administration and Finance, ITSI 22-01, Internet Broadband Investments in our Community. Councillor Vardy.
Thank you,
My apologies.
Thank you. I just want to thank Philippe Janicas for this excellent report. It really highlights that we have an issue on the mountain, particularly around getting broadband up there. So it's great to see that he's done all this research, plus being able to convey that people that sort of relief is on its way in the matter of the next several months. So thank you.
Seeing no further questions or comments, I've got mover as Councillor Vardy. We just need a seconder. Councillor Cadwell. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Cadwell. Resolved that report ITSI 22-01 Internet Broadband Investments in our community dated April 18th, 2022 be received for information. All in favor?
Yay.
That's carried. Now we move to report 7.3A. No, because the other one was... All right, sorry. That's moved down further in the agenda. So now we move to the report 8.1A, Ombudsman Report.
Sorry, Jordan, I lifted 7.3A.
Yes, 7.3A now moves down into the Public Works portion of the agenda in 10.1.
Thank you.
Just need a mover and seconder to receive the Ombudsman Report. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Frake. Councillor Bothwell?
Is this an appropriate time to speak to it, Mayor?
Yes, absolutely.
So I would just like to note that for the second Ombudsman Report, the public may have noticed that there were actually two versions published on the town's website. Initially, there was one dated March the 4th, and then there was a subsequent one posted dated April 6th regarding the signing authorities. And I just would like to note that the Ombudsman speaks to, I'm just going to pull up my notes here. In the one that was originally posted, dated March the 4th, the Ombudsman Report stated that the CEO directed two municipal staff members to visit the town's bank to add themselves as signing authorities so that the town could continue to transact its affairs. This is after the removal of the treasurer and the finance staff. This required that the employees attest that council had passed a bylaw granting them signing authority, although this had not occurred. In the subsequent letter that was posted on the town's website, it's been changed, and there's been wording added now that says, while this change would normally require that council pass the bylaw granting them signing authority, this had not occurred. We've been advised by the CAO, but not confirmed with the bank in question due to privacy restrictions, that as a workaround, in exceptional circumstances, and in order to be able to sign off on checks, as the next day was staff payday, that the bank allowed the town's clerk and the most senior manager in the finance department to have signing authority until a resolution could be passed at the next council meeting. I just would draw attention to the fact that with regards to that statement by the CAO, that the next council meeting was April 1st, there was no bylaw brought forward. The subsequent meeting, April 6th, there was no bylaw brought forward. I put an information request forward as to who the signing authorities were. That wasn't addressed till April 19th, when legal was requested to provide a background, and it wasn't formally passed, the bylaw, until April 26th. So in fact, the CEO directed two town staff to attest at the bank that council had passed a bylaw when they hadn't, and it took 4 weeks for that to happen. So I have an issue with that. when the bylaw was passed, it was retroactive. And it was retroactive, giving signing authorities back to March 30th. The problem with that, it was retroactive by the appointing the treasurer, when in fact there was no treasurer in place between March 31st and April 5th, because the treasurer, Melanie Steele, was only appointed retroactive to April 5th. So the town actually didn't have a treasurer in place as per the statutory requirements of the Municipal Act between March 31st and April the 5th. So there's a couple of issues still with respect to the way those signing authorities occurred and the attestation at the bank as to how that timing was going to happen. So I still have some serious concerns, and they've addressed it in this letter to some extent, as well as John Maskeren addressed it in his letter previously when he provided guidance on April 22nd to council, saying that in order to cover themselves, they should do one retroactive, but it didn't take into account that there was no treasurer in place. So I think we have an issue that there's two versions of the Ombudsman report, one saying that, again, that staff were directed to attest to something on the TD Bank's resolution saying that council had passed a resolution when in fact it hadn't. And then the CAO stating that it would happen at the next council meeting, which didn't happen. So I just still have some serious concerns about how that signing authority, those actions took place. And I feel that they're still quite questionable. Thank you.
Point of order.
Councillor Dunstall.
I don't see this on the agenda tonight. I don't know why we're talking about something that's not on the agenda. We have a Ombudsman report here to discuss, and Councillor Bothwell is talking about something altogether different. I don't see it on the agenda.
Through you, Mayor, it is the second letter, Ombudsman letter, dated April 6th, and it does refer specifically to the signing authorities.
Yes, I see that, Councillor Bothwell. Let's move to Councillor Bain.
Thank you. I'm a little concerned myself here, more so. I know we did discuss in detail the signing authority thing. I'm kind of curious as to why we're rehashing that one. What I am more concerned about is that a severance package was offered to an employee, which was not brought before council. Similar to the biodigester lease.
Councillor Bain, I'd be very careful about that because that was all discussed in closed session.
I'm talking about the Ombudsman report. Is it not in the Ombudsman report?
Go ahead.
Well, if it's not, then I won't discuss it, but I clearly read, when I read the Ombudsman report, that clearly stated that there was stuff done by yourself without any authorization from council. What the CAO did, I think.
Are you identifying individuals, Councillor Bain?
Just you.
Wow. That's a violation of closed session.
How is that a violation of closed session? It's in the Ombudsman report. You'll have to correct me here. Give me some guidance here then, because as far as I'm concerned, what I read is very clear. If I'm outside of the boundaries, then I need to know that. But I don't believe I am, and if I am, then please tell me and I'll stop.
Go ahead, Councillor Bain.
Okay, so I'm still within my lines here. I'm not trying to go outside of the lines. I'm just saying what I read. It was very clear that I'm very concerned about that. There's been a number of things done at the beginning of this council that were never brought to this council and have cost the town a lot of money and put us in bad spots. There's other things too. I'm very concerned. I don't know what's going on here. What else is going on that we don't know about? That's my concern. We can sit here and try and cover up with the CAO doing his thing, which was done necessarily to keep the town running. We already discussed that at length. That's fine. But I do have concerns that decisions were made by yourself or one other member of council or two other members of council, whatever, but the whole council was never informed of a lot of things identified by the Ombudsman, and I'm very concerned about that. That's town money that was not authorized to be spent. So that's my concern, that's all. And if I go out of bounds, tell me. I don't believe I am, and that's why I'm talking to it. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I want to talk about the first report too. I don't know if I'll have enough time actually to talk about it. But again, a lot of this information came from information that was put into my mailbox. And I'll be more than happy now to share this with anyone that wants this information. As seeking third-party legal advice, the information given to me was once the information was put into my mailbox, it became my possession, and I could share with it whoever I choose to share with it. It's now open for all and everyone to hear, to see, and read. And you'll see clearly in this report, it is a little vague when it speaks to councillors, when it does not necessarily involve councillors, as per some of the information that I have here right in front of me. That being said, the Ombudsman has put forward several recommendations, which I don't think we have enough time to talk about tonight. So I'd like to defer the first portion of the Ombudsman's report to a special meeting of next week. And I'd also like to include in a special meeting that we discuss all current, all present and past legal situations we're in with the lawyer who's mentioned, with the lawyer who is talked about without using their name in this report.
I'll second that.
I'll read the resolution and we'll open it up for discussion. Moved by Councillor Ritchie, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that item on Ombudsman Report be deferred to a special council meeting of April 25th, 2022, and include item for all legal update on files led by the legal counsel in the report. Councillor Vardy? What? Oh yeah, sorry, we can't discuss deferrals. So I've read the resolution. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell? Councillor Bothwell?
No.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
No.
Councillor Cowell?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
No.
Mayor Jordan?
Oh,
No.
wait a second, it's,
Okay. I got your note, yep. Councillor Vardy was a no. Mayor Jordan?
No.
That's carried.
All right, now we move to report DRS 22-05, the Grinsby 100 project. Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor Jordan, members of council. Trevor Russo is also going to be joining us this evening to do presentation for this. But just wanted to thank the team for all their great work on this. It's a lot of moving parts, trying to be responsive to an ever-changing environment. And I just want to appreciate Trevor and Krista and Olivia and all the other team members, including lots from across our entire corporation, helping to contribute to this project. So with that, I will turn it over to Trevor, and he will share an update with you.
Thank you, Sarah, and good evening, members of council. I'm so excited to be here tonight to share an update on Grimsby Centennial celebrations. We've kind of branded this Grimsby 100, and just talking about what we've done, what we're working on, and where we're going with plans for commemorating 100 years of the incorporation of the town of Grimsby. I'm just going to do a high-level overview. So the guiding principles that we've been using through this program are three. Connect with residents and visitors, commemorate our history and stories, and celebrate our legacy and our future. So through these three principles, we're tying in the events and commemorative pieces and legacy installments that we're doing to kind of mark this milestone in our community. So what are we doing to connect with the community? We have started, we've launched the Grimsby 100 website a few months back. It is through the Let's Talk Grimsby portal. It's an opportunity where residents can go online, find information about what we're doing for the centennial. It has key event dates that are coming up in the community. And it has opportunities where you can actually share some feedback and share some stories that you have about Grimsby. And one of the other things that hopefully you've seen already, and we'll see certainly more of as we move into event season, is the Grimsby 100 brand. I think you're probably familiar with the logo from our first presentation, and activations. So we have an activation tent. We had it on first display at Hometown Hockey back in November. And this is kind of a rolling tent that you'll see at a number of different events and activities, just to get the word out there. We're planning to have merchandise, sweaters, t-shirts, things that the community can purchase or perhaps win through different prizes to commemorate this, not just this year, but hopefully in the future. So hoping to see residents across town with those memorabilia coming soon. One of the things we've launched relatively recently is a Share Your Grimsby storyboard at the Peach King Center. So there's a physical board at the Peach King Center. It's a pegboard, and residents are encouraged to write down a story or write down a tidbit about Grimsby and post it publicly on our board. There's also the option to visit the Let's Talk Grimsby page and post a story. I thought I would share just a couple of really quick ones that have been posted so far. So we have one here. I moved here when I was 7 and I love Main Street. I love Grimsby because I love playing hockey at the Peach King. And I love coming to Grimsby every weekend to watch my great-grandson play hockey. Life can't be better than this for me. So yeah, I've had the chance to really see some really great stories from the community coming through and looking forward to more. We are planning to post some of these on social media throughout the year, just to highlight some of those more memorable stories that have been posted. Also launching today is the Grimsby Goose Chase Scavenger Hunt. Goose Chase is a mobile platform you can use to do a scavenger hunt across Grimsby. And we've been working with Nellis Manor, the Historical Society, the museum, the art gallery to curate a list of fun and interactive scavenger hunts across town that kind of tie in Grimsby's history. So look for that live today. So commemorating. History highlights will be ongoing throughout the year. These will be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, town social media, and just highlighting key history moments in Grimsby, and just hopefully to interact with residents and build some conversation about the rich history that we have in our community. While we are celebrating 100 years, Grimsby's history goes a lot further back than that, and we're just looking to highlight that rich history we have in town. The Bell Box Mural project is an exciting installation coming in summer 2022. These are Bell utility boxes across town that will be painted by local artists. We're aiming to have that done by midsummer. 3 historical legacy plaques will be installed along the 40 Mile Creek, highlighting its significance in forming our community. The Historical Society is running monthly speaker series and council chambers, highlighting various history topics throughout the year. The town's supporting that. Coronation Park Legacy Project. We're looking at construction now for December 2022 for the work on revitalizing the creek and doing some landscape improvements. It won't be until spring 2023 where we're able to finish some of the hardscaping and other landscaping improvements. So looking to 2023 to really unveil those changes to Coronation Park. So what are we doing to celebrate? We have a long schedule of events that are coming for 2022. We'll see the return of a number of events that have been either canceled or delayed due to COVID-19. So a full list of these events can be found on the website. But some that we've had already: Family Day, Run of the Rink, the Heritage Art Competition has concluded and is online and in person. We did receive funding for 2 events. Participation and Canada Day has got some increased funding, which will be held in the museum. So we're excited about that. I'm just going to go over some quick upcoming events. The Rotary Watershed Cleanup on April 23rd, the Ways Goose Book Arts Fair, April 30th, MPCA tree planting in Centennial Park on April 30th, Garden Club tree sale. Trees are on sale now, and you can pick up May 7th at the PKC. Community Safety Day will be returning on May 14th, Peach King Center. Farmers Market will be returning to the Peach King Center starting May 26th. Participation will be activities to get the community moving and engaged all through all of June. Happening in Grimsby will be back June 16th to 18th. And we're looking to run 5 movie nights in the park, a popular program we had back in before COVID. Usually, drawing a good crowd in the evening to watch family-friendly movies. Enhanced Canada Day celebration, Canada Summer Games at Southward Park, August 6th to the 21st. The 13 for 13 Festival, which is associated with the Canada Summer Games. We're partnering with PEI as part of the festival, and we'll be delivering that on August 20th in Grimsby. Grimsby Art Walk is a new event we're working on to replace what was formerly Doors Open to highlight arts and culture in Grimsby. We're looking to do a special author series edition in the park at the end of September in collaboration with the library. And lastly, speaking with the community and just as we've been going through the planning, the one thing I think we've been missing and the one thing that I think everyone's looking for is this moment this year where we say, happy birthday to Grimsby. 100 years is a great milestone. How are we gathering as a community to mark that? So what we're proposing is a one-time event on September 23rd, Grimsby's Centennial Birthday Party. Planning to host it at Southward Community Park. The event would feature fireworks and live music, an large inflatable screen where a video tribute to Grimsby with pictures and comments from residents about what Grimsby means to them, followed by a movie, by a movie in the park up at Southward. And preceding the fireworks, we'd also have some local talent doing live music and interactive games for children. So we're really looking this to be an addition to kind of cap off the year. We'll be integrating Grimsby 100 into all of the events that are happening, but this will kind of be that signature moment where we're saying, this is the moment we're marking as a community together, this milestone. So that is what we have planned. There's some more details in my report as well. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those now.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, and thank you, Trevor, for the presentation. I have a hunch, and I know that the success that we had with hometown hockey, with Sarah and your involvement and your staff, I think this 100th anniversary celebration is just going to be a great, great, great event. Very successful again. So just the question I do have, I just seen it quickly on the screen, and it's the movie night. Is that, which park? Is that at Southward? Are we using Centennial Park too for some events? That's my question. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The movie nights we're planning or we're looking at Coronation Park as the main location. From an infrastructure standpoint, we have bathrooms on site. It's well lit, it's accessible. So that is the preferred location for 4 of those movies. The final movie we're planning to do as kind of the finale of the September 23rd event at Southward Park. So we would have 4 events at Coronation Park, 4 movie nights in Coronation Park, 1 movie at Southward Park on September 23rd.
Thank you, Trevor. I think you answered my question. So yeah, we're not using Centennial Park, but Coronation Park is right downtown. Great location. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Trevor. Great report. It's chock full of great things. It looks really exciting. The birthday party. I just thought there was one thing missing. Food. I didn't see you mention food, and of course there's got to be a birthday cake. So I hope you include that in some point in your the planning of your event, because we all like to eat. What do you say, Trevor? We're going to have some food there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there will definitely be food.
Good.
Whether we'll be doing food trucks or integrating it into the community room, we will see. I'm not sure if I can get a cake big enough for the audience we're hoping to draw, but I'll see what we can do.
We'll see if you can get it in the budget somehow to get that cake there. Yeah.
That's good.
Seeing no further questions or comments, thank you very much, Trevor and Sarah, for your presentation. I'm sure our 100th anniversary celebration is going to be chock full of activities for everyone. So we're really looking forward to that, and we're going to make the whole year a celebration of our 100th. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that report DRS 22-06 Grinsby 100 project update dated April 18th, 2022 be received for information. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, Trevor and Sarah. Have a good evening. Oh, well, you're here for the next one too, so. All right, now we move to report DRS 22-09, 50-point conservation area in Callison Avenue North parking. Sarah?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Hopefully you all had a chance to read and review the report, so I'll keep my remarks fairly brief, knowing you have a full agenda this evening. But this evening we are giving you an update on some of the works we've been having with 50-point conservation area and Hamilton Conservation Area, and also talking about the Callison Avenue North area. So staff have been collaborating quite a bit with Hamilton Conservation Area team. They've been wonderful to work with, and it's a collaboration we're looking to continue forward with. They've recently updated their master plan for 50 Point. I believe probably many of you have seen that as well. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, 50 Point really did see a considerable visiting increase, and it's something that they've had to tackle. And while they don't expect to necessarily maintain some of those numbers they saw during that time, a general increase in numbers is the trend that they're hoping for ultimately. So working with them, we're looking at a variety of options of how can we sort of best manage some of the vehicle congestion that they were experiencing. And one of the good options that came forward was using the access point that is along Callison Avenue North just during peak volume times. So it would be during some peak summer holidays and weekends when they would need it. Just to take a little bit of pressure off of their main entrance gate. It would just be for people who are visiting the beaches area. It wouldn't be for campers and things such as that. And it would be monitored and staffed as well by their team. We have worked with Public Works as well to ensure the culvert is sufficient at this time. And if it was something that we were to continue with, we would work with them to build something a little bit more permanent. But for now, it would just be a pilot for this season. The other part of the report is pertaining to Callison Avenue North. Again, some challenges that sort of came forward a little bit more with COVID-19 as residents and visitors were looking for outdoor areas to visit. And the end of Callison Avenue North does provide some parking in that area. The biggest challenge we have is it sort of provides parking to areas we don't own. So to the left of the end of the road allowance would be, of course, 50 Point, which is an admission-based park, and they do wonderful work to keep their beach well-groomed and all of those wonderful things. And of course, if people are parking at the end of Callison Avenue, they may be accessing the park without paying those admission fees. And then to the right-hand side is the Department of National Defense lands. And we do know that there is not permission for public access to those areas. And additionally, it is a site, something we have seen on a couple of times in our visitors out to this area. So there is some concerns about what the parking lot that we're providing is sort of providing a pathway to. And we think as being good neighbors, it is something that ideally we don't have parking there. It also helps to resolve a bit of concern that we've had. There was a lot of responses to this park area to address some litter, some waste, user conduct, some concern as well about emergency response and access to that area. So those are the requests that we are bringing forward at this time. I should say, as far as the parking there, we wouldn't be having parking in that space, but we would still, the footpath that exists there, we wouldn't be blocking it off at this time. So if a pedestrian did walk down to that area just to see the water, they could do so, but just trying to avoid the access that we may be providing to private lands at this time. So hopefully that gives a quick summary of what we're hoping to do, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Sweeney, just a question, and this came up when I think it was, I had an initial discussion with your team on this as well. Diverting, can you clarify two things? Is this going to be the new main entrance for beach-going visitors now off of Kelson at that service gate entrance? If that's going to be the main entrance now for weekends and during the week for beachgoers, could you answer that one first? And I have another question.
Sure. Through you, Mayor Jordan, my understanding is no, it wouldn't be sort of the main entrance. It would be just sort of an extra entrance that they have. So people would still be able to use that main entrance first and foremost. But if they had volumes of people that they could to sort of move people off of the main street there, they could use that as a secondary access point.
So they'll somehow be advertising or marking it to direct people down Winston and down Kelson to that secondary entrance. I just have a concern that it's going to divert the pressure points from what they have now to Grimsby, to in front of the Kelson Avenue homes, the Winston Road homes that are on the corner of Kelson and Winston. And I don't think they've been asked how they feel about it, but it's going to significantly increase the amount of traffic past their homes and down Kelson, and perhaps backing up as well. So I know it's only a pilot. I just think it's really, really critical that we engage those residents along Winston, especially the ones that are the homes there right at the corner of Winston and Kelson, so they understand what this impact is going to be to their neighborhood. Because to me, it's going to be significant when you're looking at 282,000 vehicles attending in a year. And the majority of those are through the summer. And what I'm hearing is they're backed up all the way to Lockport to the plaza by 50 Road when they're trying to get into 50 Point on a weekend. Then we're going to expect that same type of traffic volume along Winston, which is not made for it. And Kelson is not made for it because it's really deep ditches. There's no shoulders. Right now, everybody likes to walk or bike down Kelson. And we're now going to divert tons and tons of traffic down there to the secondary entrance when it is a walking and biking route, and there's a potential for pedestrians to be in conflict with vehicles, because now if we're making it much more busy, we don't have a place for them to jump. There's only deep ditches on the side. So I just think that maybe we don't have the street designed in a way to accommodate all the multi-users that are using Kelson right now, and to put that amount of volume of traffic could jeopardize pedestrians. So I have some really serious concerns about moving that into being a 50-point entrance. Thank you.
If I may just respond to that, Mayor Jordan, just to remind everyone, it would be an entrance only, so it would be one direction. And it would only be during peak periods. So the main entrance still remains the main entrance throughout most of the time. It's just those busier weekend times and holiday times that they're looking for that offset. But point well taken, and we can certainly collaborate with them and continue to make sure that we're managing as best we can, and also notifying the area residents of what the change is, both the change to this access point, but also the reduction on Kelson Avenue, which I think some of them may also appreciate, knowing some of the volumes that used to exist along Kelson Avenue before as well.
Thanks, Sarah. I just think we may be taking the parking away, but we're replacing it with a lot of volume of traffic coming and going. So I think we're making it better. We're actually maybe making the amount of weekend traffic more significant there. But anyway, thank you for taking that into consideration.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, and thank you, Sarah, for the report. I remember taking the tour back, I don't know, a year ago maybe, I forget exactly. There was myself, Councillor Bothwell, CAO Mr. Slang, and yourself with the 50-point conservation folks there, and it was great to see this report. I like the report, and as you mentioned, it's a secondary access entrance into the park area, and I couldn't believe the amount of parking they have back in that back area at the park too. So yeah, again, it's just comments. I like the report. And again, with our tour, it was just so hard to imagine and believe what a hidden gem waterfront property that is. So, yeah, I look forward to see how the operational side of it moves forward this summer. So thanks again.
Seeing no further questions and comments, thank you very much for the report, Sarah. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that report DRS 22-09, 50-point conservation area in Kelson Avenue North parking dated April 18th, 2022 be received and the council support the use of the access point on Kelson Avenue North at 50-point conservation area and the council approve the changes to parking along Kelson Avenue North. All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Thanks again, Sarah. All right, now we move to report 7.3A, which was lifted, DPW 22-11, Quarry Road parking. Brandon, good evening.
Good evening. I guess Councillor Sharp had pulled so I'm not sure if there's any questions.
Councillor Sharp, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan and Brandon. So I lifted this, and I've had some discussions specifically with one of the areas on here. I've been talking with Public Works staff, and I talked to some of my friends in the town of Lincoln, and they are also using similar, they're like temporary signs they put up that says caution, or I'm not sure exactly what we have proposed. They may say caution or slow. They go in the center of the road. Sometimes there's two like posts at the outside of the road, and it impedes the traffic. So sometimes people drive faster.
Councillor Sharp, are you, just a point of clarification, are you talking about DPW 2211 or DPW 2212? Because 2212 is the flexible signage pilot program, so that's coming up next.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking about...
Yeah, this is about Quarry Road.
My apologies, I do have some comments on that if you'll allow me.
Go ahead.
Okay, I gotta switch to Quarry Road mode. So I've been talking to the resident who lives at the corner of Quarry and Ridge Road, and he's been there for 20 years, 24 years, I don't know exactly, but a long time. And I've been in town for even longer than that, but the Quarry Road, that's where the Beamer Point Conservation Area is. And it's well used, especially on a few weekends. Specifically, the weekend that just passed is the Hawk Watch. And on Good Friday, they do, and they've been doing it for a long time, they count the number of hawks and the migratory birds that come through the Niagara region. And so there's just tons of people that go there on Good Friday and some other weekends through the spring and summer, and then also in the fall. When the leaves change, you get this orange, yellow Niagara escarpment. People go up to the Beamer Conservation Area and they take pictures and walk around with their families and kids. And so what I'm getting at is that there's a few weekends every year, there's multiple weekends where there's just way too many people that don't have enough parking there. There's probably 15 spaces in a small gravel lot at the entrance to the Beamer Point Conservation Area. And so people park on the road, coming down Quarry Road. And it's a rural road. It's got a bit of a shoulder. It's not very wide. But the town of Grimsby put no parking on the west side. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was to do with emergency vehicle access. So they put all the cars onto the east side. And there is, the complaint I got was that it was tearing up the grass of the one resident. But I don't want to focus just on that. And we seem to have found a temporary solution. What I want to talk about is a longer term solution to letting residents access that area. That is a real asset to our parks and our outdoor spaces. And I want to let Brandon have a chance to give a little bit of explanation how much parking we have and how much parking we can potentially offer up there. before he does, I want to suggest maybe we can widen the shoulder to allow more parking, or maybe we can widen it enough to do 90-degree parking, at least for a portion. And then my question is, because the conservation area is owned by the NPCA, is it within our scope to provide parking so that our residents can still go there?
Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through Mr. Mayor. It's your question with respect to widening the shoulder. Again, in the past, maybe I can back it up a little bit. Part of the reason why we're doing this kind of similar to what we're dealing with on Kelson Avenue was a influx of residents, in particular during the COVID period. I agree that there are certain peak periods within the year that it becomes a common area. I think what we've seen through COVID as well is that it's become another one of those jewels in our area, and people are appreciative of the area and want to visit, which is a good thing. So that being said, we want to make sure that there's the appropriate access. We want to make sure parking is organized out there. So this is the reason why we are bringing forward some restriction changes out there. The restrictions that you had mentioned were of a temporary nature that we put in during COVID period. And what we're doing here is actually recognize them in terms of a formal bylaw going forward that we can provide the appropriate enforcement. So as we've indicated in the plan or the report in the plan, we are restricting parking on the west side of the road, and we are allowing parking on the east side of the road for a section between the entrance of the property and last about 100 meters north of Quarry Road. So I guess you had some questions with respect to the widening. I haven't spoke to the Conservation Authority recently about what potential plans they have, but I have heard rumors of them doing some changes to the internal property there to allow some additional parking within their own property. So, I can certainly follow up with them to find out if that's, where they are with those timelines in terms of making those changes happen. With respect to actually widening the shoulder, at this time, I would just suggest that we deal with the parking restrictions. We can evaluate, how those restrictions, end result, deal with the traffic at hand, and if the shoulders are getting beat up, we can certainly look at making some improvements down the road. But there would be some cost to that, so it is not in our budget or a program established for this year. So we're just looking at this as the parking changes as a way of dealing with the matter currently. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, it does somewhat, but I know that what I mentioned was the cars on these busy weekends, and it's more than one or two, will fill both sides of the road, all the way from Ridge Road to and past the entrance to the conservation area. So if we allow one side of the road, and actually only a portion of that side of the road, where are the other cars going to go? And on those weekends, they're going to find somewhere to park. People they have ingenuity. They find places. They park on grass. They get tickets, and that's a hassle that we don't want to subject our residents to. But I just have a feeling that restricting it is going to move the problem, not solve the problem. And I want to look for solutions. I know there's budget consideration, but could you bring something back to the council with some options, including the Conservation Authority's plans to improve their parking?
I can certainly do some additional research, follow up with the Conservation Authority to find, to get a better, handle on what their future plans are. Again, I'm treating these parking restrictions irrespective of what's happening on the Conservation Authority's lands. What we're trying to accomplish here is to ensure that there's a proper emergency access for that property, with allowing or permitting parking on both sides of the road. It can be difficult for emergency vehicles to access the area. So of our primary concern is ensuring that going forward, it is organized in a safe manner, which allows emergency access to that area. So that's the recommendations we're bringing forward. I can certainly look into with the NPCA further to find out again what their intent is for the future dealing with the matter on their internal property. But again, I think pretty confident that irrespective of what they do, we need to provide some additional parking restrictions on our road allowance.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or seeing no further comments, moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Bain, resolved that report DPW 22-11 amendment to bylaw 16-82 parking prohibitions on Quarry Road dated April 18th, 2022 be received, and that the proposed bylaw amendment as described herein be approved by council. All in favor?
Yay.
That's carried. All right, now we're moving to report DPW 2212, Town of Grinsby 2022 in-road flexible signage pilot program. I know Councillor Sharp, you wanted to speak on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Mayor Jordan. Hi, everybody. I'm back. So this, I'm very happy to see this come to council. I have had some talks with our Public Works Department, and as I had mentioned earlier, I took some of these ideas from my friends in Lincoln and West Lincoln. We were looking for some potential solutions to slow traffic on some of our residential streets, and I've been learning that when it's an open road, people tend to drive faster because they feel safe to do that, and when the road is more restricted, they tend to slow down because you can scratch your car on this. And in this case, they're like flexible signs. They might be plastic or a type of sheet metal. They're probably yellow with white stripes. They say maybe caution or slow down. And so the people will, as they're driving, you kind of have to navigate around it and get yourself into your lane rather than stay in the center of the road. And I do believe that slows people down, and I think that's a fact. So I can see on the report that there are 6 areas proposed where we're going to install these removable signs. They come out in the winter for snow plowing, and one of those areas is on Roberts Road, and we've had some complaints specifically to that. I've had some complaints specific to that area, but the other 5 areas that are on here, I can see there are obvious spots where traffic calming will be effective, and I'm excited to see this go forward. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, and thank you, Brandon, very much for bringing this forward so quickly. I know that you've been very active on traffic calming and looking at ways that we can implement some new measures that are sort of the Vision Zero kind of thing, and this is one that I think is going to work really well. Especially in the Winston Road neighborhood. I appreciate that you set the Winston Road between Oaks and Hunter as a pilot area for this, because you probably have some data already gathered from this, knowing that we've done a couple of speed studies and whatever over the past few years as the neighborhoods evolve. So it would be very interesting to see whether this pilot actually does, again, help to reduce the speed for the vehicles through that area. Thank you so much for recommending it for this pilot, and I hope it comes back with some really good data. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you through the mayor. Thank you very much for this report, Brandon. I think it's great. Anything we can do to make our streets safer is a positive thing. So my question is to you on this, though. We have, where I work in Burlington, we have these all over the place. So would there be another step potentially that could be used in conjunction with these signs down the road if we Right now we're looking at narrowing it down. Would we be looking at future steps to help enhance these signs, or is this it at this time?
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I think at this point, like, we are looking at this as a pilot study. So the intent here is to really, as part of this process, prior to, during, and after, we're going to be doing some traffic monitoring, speed monitoring in the areas to see really how effective these devices are at calming the traffic. So I think this is a preliminary first steps in the direction of providing some form of calming measures out there. Could this program be tweaked, expanded? Certainly, I think all those things are on the table. We're really treating this as a pilot study to see what impact they will have. Hopefully it's a positive impact, and it's something that we can look at implementing going forward in the future. And it'll give us an opportunity to look at, how effective were these signs? Do we need to tweak things? Do we need to provide paint lines, things like that, to maybe further enhance things before we, as we move forward, I guess I should say.
Thank you, because that's one thing that I like to hear, is that we're going to measure this and so forth, because I know there's ways we can enhance this. I don't want to say what it is, because so a lot of people get their hopes up and have their sights set on specific things. So it's nice to see that we're taking steps and that we're going to collaborate with the community members to ensure this works. Thank you very much.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, Brandon. I was really happy to see this. It's terrific. And you actually volunteered the answer to my question, which was, how are you going to measure this? And because I think it's really important, because we know anecdotally people have raised some concerns. I wonder if you would consider putting any along Dorchester is one question, because that's another area where we get a lot of concerns that it is such a kind of long, uninterrupted drive that people tend to kind of speed up. The other thing is, are you going to look at any other tools to pilot? I mean, I've heard about sort of removable speed bumps, speed humps, other kinds of, I don't particularly like them, but the outcropping of sidewalks. And I'm just wondering, are you looking at any other tools as well? And would you consider adding Dorchester to the list? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So Dorchester Drive is not currently on our list. We did assess, I think it was like 18 locations across the town. And we kind of ranked them based on what we felt was a reasonable scoring system, which kind of pared it down to the 6 locations that we are proposing. That's not to say that future locations couldn't be done in the future, but at this point, we've identified our 6 kind of target locations where we're going to implement these, and certainly if the program's successful and we do see a reduction in speed and calming of the traffic, then certainly we can look at expanding it to other areas in the future. The other question was with respect to other things that we're looking at. We're always looking at different ways that we can provide traffic calming measures. One thing we mentioned in the report as a bit of a footnote was, we are looking at some specific measures in surrounding the 2 schools on Olive Street. So we're looking at some, a similar type of flexible bollards, if you want to call it, in front of Our Lady of Fatima and Lakeview School in the crossings there. These would be devices that you kind of pull out, the crossing guards pull out, and they can put them in the center of the road and take them down at the end of the day. We're also looking at similar type of bollards at North Service Road and Olive Street. We've had some concerns there about people non-complying with the stop sign. So a number of various initiatives, and we're also looking, we're bringing a report forward to council in the future to look at pedestrian crossover areas as well. So a number of initiatives that we are looking at that we will be looking at going forward.
Given that you have brought up the issue of schools, there's a very large nursery school at Governor's in Maine, and there's a lot of concern there as well. So I think that should be something to put down for consideration, especially like when it's a school full of little kids who don't always sort of follow the rules, and they can be kind of impulsive, darting into traffic and what have you. So just to put it out there, I'm very glad to see that you've got the one on Nellis Road South, because we also have a very large school at that corner as well, and people do tend to use that as an access route to Maine. So great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Brandon. Great report. It looks like you'll probably be able to collect a lot of data. A couple of questions I have. Come wintertime, and our winters are unpredictable, as we saw tonight, it was snowing again. Do these, can you take these down quite readily and then put them back up? Because sometimes we'll go for 3 or 4 weeks in the winter without any snow, but would you be using them year round, or is this a seasonal thing? That's one question. And two, do you ever see yourself suggesting down the road that another calming effect is maybe lowering the speed limit on that street, in particular, whatever street that is, to 40 kilometers from 50, like we do around school zones? So those are my two questions.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the first one is with respect to the seasonality of them. The intent here is that we'll be installing them in the spring. They'll be utilized during the basically the summer and the fall months, and they would come off the road in the fall, as they could impede our snow and snow clearing equipment or whatever. So the intent is here to just to focus on the summer and fall and spring. The other question I guess you had was there a specific street that you were indicating that was the 40?
No, not necessarily, but there's lots of them. Roberts Road is one that we've had complaints on. As Councillor Vardy said, Dorchester Road, I can remember on previous term of council, we had a lot of complaints on Dorchester Road because, again, it's a long road that people can tend to pick up speed. Sometimes I don't think they even realize it. So I think most of us would intend to drive safely, but we get preoccupied or distracted. So some calming effects are really good. But my concern, I guess, is that if you have enough data and then you take it away for the winter, would putting the speed limit down by 10 kilometers to 40 from 50 encourage people to drive slower along that street? I don't know. I'm not a traffic expert, so I'm just asking what the possibilities are there, especially for winter, because we get a lot of dry weeks in the middle of winter where people could, dry pavement, and they're going to drive excessively if they see that these portable pylons, or whatever you want to call these markers, are not there for the winter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I appreciate you clarifying that. So I think what our communications in the past with council is, with respect to the 40K signs or reducing the speed limit, although you would think it would have the effect of slowing down traffic, I think what you end up with seeing is people would be driving the same speed, and we'd be getting complaints about people driving 50 and a 40 rather than 50 and a 50, or 55 and a 50 rather than, 55 and a 40 rather than 55 and a 50. So the intent of these type of calming devices is to essentially slow that traffic in a method where it's making the drivers feel uncomfortable in terms of wanting to speed or the ability to speed, because these devices encroach into their driving lane. They are forced to reduce their speed to navigate it safely. So that's kind of the intent in this. So I mean, we would look at certain locations We have done in the past, where we were able to justify it, 40K signs specifically around park areas, school zone areas, and stuff like that.
Well, thank you. I'll be looking forward to some of the data you come back to us with, because it's, I'm sure it'll be interesting to see what habits people develop with those calming effects, and when you take them away too. I'll be interested to hear what the results are. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or comments, thank you very much, Brandon, for your report, and we look forward to the in-road flexible signing program being initiated. Moved by Councillor oh, you're welcome. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that report DPW 22-12, Town of Grinsby 2022 in-roads flexible signage pilot program dated April 18th, 2022 be received. All in favor?
Yay.
That's carried. Now we move to section 11, planning and development, report 11.2A, PA 2211, deeming bylaws in Grinsby Beach. Terry, welcome.
Good evening. This report is really about, it follows from the Grimsby Beach land use study that has recently been through a committee and council, and it just goes forward with the recommendation from that study to proceed with the deeming bylaws that are for the area. So largely, there's a lot of plans that were created, basically dating back to the 1870s, and there's a bit of a legal gray area whether or not they are legal plans of subdivision. And so what these deeming bylaws would do is just consider them for a plan of subdivision for the purposes of deeming them, so we just remove the any confusion going forward, and we just clean up some of the area in addition. And this is really something that the community was requesting, so it just follows through with some of the requests that they've already done. Deeming bylaws is just basically removing the plan that would be there that was older than 8 years or longer under the Planning Act. This is from the 1870s, largely that's when they started, so they are well beyond that 8-year period. For the purpose of these deeming, the big plans for the area are 45A, 45, 64, and then portions of 106, 144, and 187. There's a map in the report to show you where approximate locations are. It just follows some of the planned practice that we have done. When there was an individual development applications, we would have done a site-by-site deeming bylaw. This would just clear up some of the misconceptions in the area and make sure that there's no perception that some of these little tiny lots could be actual lots. So it just clears things up, and it really follows some of the concern by the community that some of these little lots could be moved forward with. So it's just basically trying to clean up the gray area and move us forward.
Thank you, Terry. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, I just have one question. I remember, and this would have been probably in 2017, the year before I was elected, there was a home in Grimsby Beach that was denied a building permit, or because it was on 2 of those lots. And now we're going to deem them and force them to build them on 1 lot. And I think that we might have engaged with those property owners in some legal actions, and I wonder how does that affect us now with this bylaw?
I'll let Walter answer that because he was here in that time.
Walter, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not quite sure which property Councillor Sharp is referring to without really knowing
33 Victoria Terrace.
Situation. Without knowing the details of that particular situation, I can't really answer the question. So if you could elaborate.
Yeah, I was talking about 33 Victoria Terrace.
Oh, 33 Victoria Terrace.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the 33 Victoria Terrace, there was a proposal to build two dwellings. There's a dwelling on.
Sorry, there was a proposal to build one dwelling. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
There was a proposal to build two because we didn't let them build one. Sorry, when I say we, I mean the past council didn't let them build one. And so then they proposed two, and then we didn't let them build two, and now we're going to force them to build one. It seems like a long time. Maybe this is something we can't talk about.
Yeah, are you asking a legal question?
I'm not sure. I just wonder, I feel like we kind of flip and flop back from like, is it one lot, is it two lots? And now we're back to one. And I know the property owner's not going to be happy with that.
It's been our practice whenever a development application came forward, whether it be in addition to an existing dwelling or the construction of a new dwelling, out of an abundance of caution, we always required council to pass a deeming bylaw to deem the lots that are within the holdings of any particular individual or property. We've passed several deeming bylaws in Grimsby Beach already up to this point. Out of an abundance of caution, we required a deeming bylaw to be passed prior to us considering any building permits or developments that would cross what were lot lines that were in these original plans in the area. So it was a practice of ours to do that. And that was the practice at this particular instance. We were advised that we advised the owners of the property that the property that they owned were two lots within a particular plan of subdivision, that's Plan 45, and that in order to build across that property, we would have needed or required, out of an abundance of caution again, council to pass a deeming bylaw to deem those lots not to be in a plan of subdivision. The applicants at the time, they submitted applications for each of the lots for minor variance and for site plan approval. Those applications the minor variances were refused. Site plan applications were not considered for approval because of the refusals for the minor variances. And the minor variance applications were subsequently appealed by the owners, and the site plan applications were subsequently appealed by the owners due to a lack of a decision within the prescribed 30-day period for site plan applications. And that's where we are now, essentially. So that's the background to that particular site. Do you require any more or additional information, Councillor Sharp?
No, thank you. That's very informative. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Seeing no further questions or comments, need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that report 22-11 deeming bylaws in Grinsby Beach dated April 18th, 2022 be received, and the council adopt the deeming bylaws for plans 45, 45A, 64, and portions of plans 187, 144, and 106. All in favor?
Yay.
That's carried. All right, now we move to report PA 22-13, proposed provincial legislative changes, Bill 109 and ERO postings. Who's speaking on that? Terry? Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, thank you. The province on March 29th proposed a huge sweeping bunch of changes. Some of them are within Bill 109, and there's also a number of ERO postings that, Environmental Registry of Ontario postings that supplement this. It's all, they're titling it the More Homes for Everyone plan. So they all relate to it. And it all comes from the Housing Affordability Task Force report that was released in early February. So through this report, I basically, through the last committee meeting, there was a request for some comments on these documents. So that's why we're bringing the report to you, as well as the fact that the comments are actually due by April 29th, so that we were only given 30 days for commenting on these documents. So largely, the provincial assessment of impacts, it has some, that even the province assesses that there would be some upfront costs with learning of the changes. There are changes in practices for internal staff and ongoing costs with additional workload and potential revenue losses with potential fee refunds from the decisions. And there would be a lot of changes for municipal staff as well. So throughout the report, you can see some of the big changes proposed as part of Bill 109 is development approval timelines. So they would reduce the approval timeline increase the approval timeline for site plans from 30 to 60 days. They also have introduced within Bill 109 some refunds for the planning fees should we not provide comments in the legislated timelines. So you can see it in the chart on in the report, that just the timelines and the amount of refunds we would have to provide. Now, this would definitely provide, have a huge implication on our budget and our budgeting time and actually meeting some of these timelines. One of the big challenges is that we have to deem an application complete, and then we would have to circulate it to our agencies. So there's usually some time for that. And then should there be any changes, the applicant has to also send out we have to wait for the applicant to send those changes back into us. Some of that time period, we just don't have control over. So penalizing a municipality for some of that time would be really hard for us to manage financially, and it would put a big bearing on staff, but we also don't have some the control over it to meet some of those timelines. So it does provide a big challenge for us. One of the other changes is for site plans that in the Planning Act, that they would actually have to be, we'd have to pass a delegation bylaw that it would not go to council any longer, that it would have to be delegated to a staff person to approve them to meet these timelines. It's one of the other improvements they are suggesting as part of the Planning Act changes. Plan of subdivision applications, they are looking at establishing regulatory authority to prescribe what can and cannot be required as conditions of approval. Again, this could be difficult for us because we might have different situations than other communities in Ontario, and sometimes you have to look at the actual individual application to see what kind of issues might arise for that. Another change is surety bonds and other instruments. They're looking at prescribing regulations and defining surety bonds and authorizing the landowners and applicants the choice with which to what kind of surety they would provide. This really comes into play when you're building, when they are required as part of a subdivision to build roads and infrastructure. This could definitely provide a problem for municipalities. There's been lots of municipalities that have done these and they've just have not been able to recover the funds. And when we currently right now, we do a letter of credit, which is a guaranteed funds. Developers don't like that because it takes away some of their available capital to do additional projects. But it is definitely something that municipalities have not been in favor of, where developers are actually pushing for this. So there's other components of Bill 109 for reporting, Community Benefit Charges and Development Charges Act. Some of these are things we basically already do, but we might look into a community benefit charge bylaw. So there's things that we would have to look at as part of those changes. Official plan amendments and official plans, the minister has allowed for them to stop the clock on review of official plans and provide them to the OLT, which already the OLT is pretty stretched and we have to wait for a significant time period. So that might be a further delay in getting development to happen. They're also proposing a community infrastructure and housing accelerator, which essentially is like an MZO, so a minister's zoning order, except the municipal council would have to request it and also add and do some engagement for it. So there's just a lot of questions about this one as well. It could be helpful, but it could be, we just don't know as well where this stands. One of the other components of the proposals is the missing middle proposal. This is an ERO proposal, and it just basically asks some questions. And this is where a lot of the big challenges came up with the Housing Affordability Task Force report, is that it talks about allowing as of right residential development on a residential lot for up to 4 units or up to 4 stories on a single residential lot. And so it adds some questions. One of the big challenges, I think, as we know, is that you have to really look at the circumstances for any residential lot. So just allowing that as of right across the province without any consideration of context really does not provide for the consideration that we really need to look at. There's another posting for housing needs in rural and northern municipalities that again talks about the opportunities for having housing, additional housing on rural and northern lots. So again, that it's just how would that fit in the Grimsby context? We do have agricultural land. How would that fit when you're talking about the Greenbelt already? And there's very strict regulations within there. So there's a number of financial impacts from this report and from these proposals, like the refusals, some of the staffing that would be required to meet some of these timelines and not have refunds pre-provided if we have to deliver refunds. Essentially, if some of this legislation passes, there is going to have to be a lot of work to come back to committee and council with what the actual implications are going to be. And so there's going to have to be a lot of work to really see how we can manage this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, for your report. I see Councillor Bothwell, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Mayor, through you. I want to thank Terry very much for putting together this report. I know it's quite detailed and there was a lot to absorb and it's been going around the municipalities. They've all been discussing it, as you said. I agree. There are some serious concerns, and I think even AMO said that this is favorable to developers, not municipalities necessarily, and that the general public is going to suffer because we're going to have less public participation as a result of this, less input, and council will have less decision-making authority. It's going to be removed from us. So there's some stuff there that we're definitely going to find is going to hit home significantly. I want to specifically just address the issues about the site plan now being delegated to staff, and that there's, which is currently council has a role in site plan. We actually review it and approve it for certain types in our official plan. And that the prescribing of the complete application requirements for site plan and for what can and cannot be required as a condition of subdivision approval. So I think what I'm hearing is the government is pushing this through. It's already at second reading. You're expecting it's going to happen anyway. So I think that if we're looking at what those impacts are, we need to have a proactive approach to what we want to see in those complete application requirements for the site plan and the subdivision approval, especially ones that, you know, and I know the region works on, you know, your pre-application submissions for any development, but these ones particularly now, we're going to need to be just refining that and ensuring that everything that council wants to see can get incorporated as possible in that. One of the things, the reason I'm raising this specifically is with respect to the tree canopy and the number of trees that are being taken down on developments prior to the subdivision being approved or whatever, and they're just at the pre-application and they've got an agreement not to do an arborist report, whatever, and the next thing you know, all the trees are gone. So Fort Erie has put in their plan of, in their for their complete application for their plans of subdivision. They have penalties for removing trees prior to the subdivision approval, et cetera, or to a building permit being issued. So I think we just really have to look at how we can tighten up some of those loopholes so that we protect the things that are important to Grimsby through those complete application requirements. So if it's going to happen to us, let's just be proactive in looking at what we can put into it that is going to strengthen our tools. So I think you're looking for a motion here, Terry, to, that are the concerns and whatever of council go forward by April 29th. So I'm not sure what the motion is, clerk, but I would support that the concerns that have been raised in this report do get forwarded to the ERO prior to that deadline. So if that's the motion, I'd like to put it forward. Thank you.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bothwell, I'll read the motion as it stands now, and because I think it does encompass that in it, but we'll see if we want any further changes. Resolve that report PA 22-13 proposed provincial legislative changes, Bill 109 and ERO postings dated April 18th be received for information, and that staff be directed to provide comments to the province regarding the proposed provincial legislative changes through the Environmental Registry Office, ERO.
That's fine. I would just ask if staff could kindly provide a copy of what is sent to council, because I would just ask that it align with the comments that are in this report. Thank you.
Point of clarification.
Councillor Vardy.
When Councillor Bothwell said what's sent to council, do you mean what's sent to the province?
Sorry, yes, that council receive a copy of what is sent to the province, please.
Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, what we were intending to do is actually submit the report. Should it go through committee tonight, we were going to send the report so they could see the full discussion of what we were talking about. So it wouldn't be a separate submission.
I'm good with that. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I read this report back in, about at least a month ago. Obviously, this report was written specifically for the developers, because if you look at the number of contributions that are put into this report, most of the contributors are somehow developer related. Anyways, I beside the point now, but 29th of April comes around very quick. There's no way we're going to be able to do anything more than what you have in your report. So I do definitely endorse what Councillor Bothwell is saying. By the way, Terry, you might refer also to the report that was issued by the AMO, the Association of Municipalities Ontario. They pretty much mirror image what you said in your report. So you can refer to those guys as well, and they have the same concerns on behalf of the municipalities of Ontario. So nothing new there, of course, but anyway, so you might want to refer to that report as well. It's unfortunate because, this is pushing, they call this acceleration, well named. So acceleration at the expense of what? At the expense of the municipalities not having much of a foothold in what goes on going forward. We know we have a number of years, quite a few years left to finish intensification, and it looks like they're going to move that up from what I can gather from the report. But anyways, yeah, I go along. I think we need to get this report back to them as in the form of our particular response as soon as we possibly can, obviously before 29th of April. So I certainly will endorse what Councillor Bothwell said. Thank you. Thank you for the report, Terry. Well done.
Seeing no further questions or comments, moved by Councillor Bothwell. Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. Two things, I guess. We're sending this into the province. We should also include our Sam Oosterhoff, our local MPP, so that he's also aware of our concerns. But I guess my question really is for the CAO. And given that we're currently short-staffed in planning, and planning is a huge, development is a huge issue for the community. And I think calling it a tsunami might be a bit much, but the wave is coming for sure, but there's going to be increased pressure on planning. So I'd like to know what the CAO's mitigating strategies are, how he plans to resource our planning department in order to meet these demands, because I would hate to see that, that we might lose on an important issue because there weren't enough staff to respond to a report or respond to a development, and because of that, we have no case to fight something that might be undesirable. So if you could tell me what your plans are to staff up planning and fortify that, as we know that there's going to be even more increasing demands coming. Thank you.
CAO?
Thank you, Mayor. Through to Councillor Barty. Yeah, I was going to wait till the report got approved, but the bottom line is that when Terry mentioned towards the end of her verbal update that, we need to assess this if this does go through, of the impact on staff based on those tight timelines, that we have to turn around things before we have to provide a refund. We're not staffed accordingly now. There's no question about that. So once we do hear this gets approved, I proactively do have to, like Terry said, we have to proactively come to council and see what adjustments we'd have to make in the staffing area. And we're definitely going to do that. I want to commend Terry and the planning team for such good work on this report in a very short time. So we will be assessing the impact and come back to council and what that would mean to staffing appropriately for those timelines. We won't be the only lower tier that's struggling with this. It's hard to find planners out there in the marketplace, and this definitely would be a hardship to many lower tier municipalities like ourselves.
Are we doing anything proactive to, offer internships to students who are studying planning so that we can possibly develop a way in for students to kind of bring them along through that process so that we can at least, get some junior planners in?
Through you to Councillor Barty, that's been what we've been doing the last 6-7 months. Most times our interns, we've been converted to full-time. We've had great success with that, thanks to Antonetta and the work she did with York University. So yeah, we were very proactive there, and we're going to continue to drive that. And about 3 recent hires have been interns. So kudos to Walter and the team and Antonetta that made that happen. We'll continue to drive that.
Thank you, CAO. Seeing no further questions or comments, moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Frick, resolved that Report PA 22-13, proposed provincial legislative changes, Bill 109 and ERO postings dated April 18, 2022, be received for information, and that the staff be directed to provide comments to the province regarding the proposed provincial legislative changes through the Environmental Registry Office. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell?
Yes.
Councillor Dunstone?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
Yes.
Councillor Cowell?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
That's carried.
Thank you very much for your report, Terry. Have a good evening. All right, now we move to notice of motion, number 12. Introduction date, April 18th, 2022. Subject, Balsam Lane parking lot. Requested by Councillor Sharp. Whereas parking for employees of downtown businesses is limited, and whereas the town of Grinsby is currently engaging in a parking study for the downtown, be it resolved that the town of Grinsby hold in abeyance the enforcement of the 2-hour parking limit downtown around Balsam Lane until the parking study is completed and a new parking strategy can be implemented for downtown businesses. I acknowledge that this notice of motion will be given consideration at the May 2nd, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting. All right, now we move to correspondence. Okay. All right, the first correspondence is the declaration for the Great Lakes Watershed Cleanup Day. Need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Sharp. Second by Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that April 23rd, 2022 is hereby proclaimed as Great Lakes Watershed Cleanup Day in the town of Grinsby, and the town joins the Rotary Club of Grinsby and Rotary District 7090 in encouraging its citizens to participate in area-wide watershed cleanup efforts within the town of Grinsby and the West Niagara area. All in favor? That's carried. Now we move to the remainder of our correspondence. I need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Vardy, seconder Councillor Bothwell. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the following correspondence items be received. NPCA Board Meeting Highlights, March 25th, 2022. 11 Lakeview A0221 OLT Decision. Rotary Club Agreement, well, we did that one. So those two. All in favor? That's carried.
Oh. How was the shower?
Harry, you're not on mute.
All right, the next meeting of the Committee of the Whole is scheduled for May 2nd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. And we will be adjourned to the council meeting at 8:25. Good evening. I'd like to call the council meeting of Monday, April 18th, 2022 to order. Could everyone please rise for the playing of the national anthem? Niagara Region and Grinsby are situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendoronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the town of Grinsby stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we need a mover and seconder for approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Sharp. Second, Councillor Bothwell. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the April 18th, 2022 council agenda be approved. All in favor? That's carried. All right, now we move to Committee of the Whole minutes for approval, and council minutes. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Frake. Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question with respect to the Committee of the Whole April 4th minutes. In it, I had an information request put forward. The one regarding the whistleblower and the status of the corporate policies and the third-party reporting provider. And the second was to the CAO, just to advise us who the name of the staff member is and the role of the acting director of planning, building, and bylaw. And I don't see those answers in our agenda this evening. So I just would like to ask if those two could be addressed.
CAO?
Mayor, yes, I'll be sending an email out tomorrow. Apologize for that.
I'd like it to be public, please, on the record, as the question was asked publicly.
CAO?
Okay, then I'll bring it on May 2nd.
Moved by Councillor Cadwell, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the Committee of the Whole and council minutes of April 4th, 2022 be approved. All in favor?
Yay.
That's carried. All right, now we move to Section 9, Report FCR 22-01, Firefighter Pager Purchase. Deputy Chief. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor, Councilors. Nice to see everyone. I'd like to thank Sarah and the CAO for allowing me to bring this report directly to Council. It is time sensitive. And thank our Director of Finance for working with our team to make this happen. I'm hoping to let it happen. As you know, firefighters in the volunteer world are paged using digital pager or any type of pager. Right now, we use an analog pager that works off our old tower at Station 2. As we move forward with our new radio system, as approved by Council in 220, was a digital radio system. So now we own no basically towers in the future. We won't have any radio towers that we'll have to own to dispatch ourselves off if we're allowed to go to these digital pagers. So at this time, the town of Pelham, town of West Lincoln, and Lincoln and ourselves are on the digital system, which is the police broadband system. And we're just asking for a request to purchase 50 more pagers to go digital. And this will totally eliminate any of our infrastructure in radio towers. Plus, it also gives the ability for all our volunteer firefighters to get updates on a fire call en route in their personal vehicle. And that's very important. They're losing that right now. So when we're going to a medical call and it's upgraded to a CPR, that really helps them get their mindset and where they're going, even to a structure fire. They get updates all the time. And right now they can't hear that on the digital system. So the purchase of these 50 pagers will assist us quite a bit in that. And the main thing I think here is the cooperative purchasing. Over the long run, we're going to save $17,000 by doing this purchase this year with a cooperative purchase with Lincoln and with the town of Pelham. So really, in a nutshell, that's it. I don't want to take much of your time, but I'm here to answer any questions. And I thank you again for this opportunity to bring it directly to Council.
Thank you for that report, Chief Thompson. Now we move to Councillor Frake. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. To the Assistant Fire Chief. Bill, I thought we had already approved that in the budget. Did we not?
Not for these digital pagers. Not all of them.
Is this extra to the budget, or is it covered by reserves or something? Or
yes. My apologies. Through you, Worship. Yes, Councillor Freck, it will be covered in our reserves as approved by the Director of Finance.
Okay. I think it's great that you're bringing the fire department into the modern age. I can't believe we're still using digital. But anyways, yeah, I certainly will approve. I just wanted to. I thought it was in the budget, but I guess it wasn't. So as long as you have the reserves, I think it's a worthwhile investment by the town and by the fire department. So thanks for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, and I might be wrong here, but I wanted to speak to clarify Councillor Frake that he's right. It was in the budget, but it was over a 2-year plan. And this way here, if we consolidate it into the 1 year, there is a massive savings because we were going to purchase it on our own. But now joining purchasing power, there's a savings of $17,000 if we do it all this year.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. You're correct.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. And yeah, it makes sense. It's a good investment. If you could just clarify, perhaps in the report, it does say that after the bulk pricing and advancing the $19,260 from the fire equipment replacement reserve, there's a revised year-end projected balance to, and the number doesn't make sense. It says 1,753,07. So I just wondered, what is the revised year-end projected balance?
Well, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. I'll have to look into that. I just see that myself. I'm not sure if the Director of Finance would be able to assist at this time, seeing she's just new into the position. This was done under Melanie, but I will get you the answer. I have a feeling that might be the 1 million mark, the reserves.
Okay. Thank you. And we're only taking roughly 19,000 something from the reserves out of there anyway, right? And the remaining balance is there. So.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe Councillor Bothwell is correct. If you were to look at the agenda for the Fire Advisory Committee or the Joint Fire Service Committee, that number there is clarified in that report. I don't know off by hand, but that number is accurate, I believe, in that report.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, and great work, Chief, with the yourselves and Chief Hudson, and working with the town of Pelham. It's just a great news story, because it just really enhances the, as you mentioned, getting everybody with new pagers, state-of-the-art pagers, so to speak. So, yeah, I just think it's a great report, and thanks very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Excellent report, Chief Thompson. Keep up the good work. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frick. Resolved that report FCR 22-01 firefighter pager purchase be received, and that council endorse the Joint Fire Service Advisory Committee recommendation and approve purchase of P25 digital pagers from Talk Wireless, Inc. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, all of you too.
Moving to number 12, correspondence, Niagara Transit Commission Transitional Board Member Appointment. It was deferred from last meeting. Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've read through this report several times, and I'd like to put my name forward as being the councillor that would sit on this interim commission. It goes till January 31st, when the other commission will take over January 1st. So it's, I think I have a good background for this, being in the business community most of my life, and I think I can be an asset on this interim commission. So I'll put my name forward. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Yes, I'd like to second Councillor Dunstall's nomination.
Councillor Frick.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I believe that our regional councillor put his name forward there a couple of weeks ago, and when we deferred this. So if he's still interested, I'd like to nominate Councillor Frick for this role. I don't know if he's here to accept it or not. I don't see his name on here. I don't know if
he's here.
Yes, Councillor Furtick is here.
Would he like to accept that?
I'll second it.
Yes, he will accept that. Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. And I just think that Councillor Furtick is a strong candidate for our representation on this committee, considering he's been involved for quite a number of years in the regions linking transit committees. He was very involved too on the local transit committees when we were having those discussions quite a number of years ago. I just feel he brings a strong local focus to the regional table, and he knows what our needs and our position is on this as well. I just think for consistency, I think Councillor Furtick is a great representation for us on this committee. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. So it was my understanding, it is my current understanding, that in Lincoln they appointed Councillor Pachariva, and I was under the impression that we were supposed to appoint somebody from our local council, and I, no disrespect to Councillor Furtick, he's already on the regional council, and the intent of bringing this more locally was not to put all our eggs in the regional basket, and so I want to be able to spread the reach of this committee out to our local council, and I think so did Lincoln. And in my interpretation, that was the intent. So, just my opinion. Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree with that, because I think that most of these items, and maybe Councillor Furtick can correct me if I'm wrong, Once they're decided on this committee, it'll always be brought to the regional council and they'll have an additional vote there. So instead of just having the one say, I think it's better for us to have 2 says or 3 says, because yourself is there, Mayor Jordan, at regional council. So I think this is this might be the best way to have multiple says into the committee. And I do believe that was the intent, was for every municipality to appoint someone. It could be anybody, they said, but I think that having somebody at the local level and then them being able to also talk to the regional councilors, it assists everything. So thank you.
Go ahead, Sarah, you can clarify that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, on page 7 of the report from the region, nominees must be an elected official, either a local or regional councillor.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you. I was just going to add that, as well as that they further go on in the description of who we should be selecting, that local area councils may wish to consider candidates with particular expertise or background in areas related to the objectives, such as business, finance, strategic planning, or transit. And they're all transitional board positions, will be elected officials. So I think that, again, Councillor Furtick brings the strengths that we need to the table on this, and regional councillor can be quite appropriate. Thank you.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. One, I guess I would like to second Councillor Bothwell's idea. I'd like to hear from Councillor Furtick why he feels he's a good candidate. I know he's got a background in transportation, but I think it would be good so that everyone knows why he would be a good candidate. Thank you.
Great. I think if it's the will of council, we should allow both candidates about 3 minutes to state their case. I think we did that when we had a runoff for the regional environmental committee. Well, I guess Councillor Dunstall comes first in the alphabet, so go ahead, Councillor Dunstall.
Yeah, it has its advantages sometimes, especially when it's on a ballot. Yeah, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk for a few minutes on this subject. As I said earlier, I believe I have a skill set that could be an asset to this interim commission. There's several things that the commission will be doing, looking at the assets of the existing transit systems in St. Catharines, Welland, and Niagara Falls, and how that's going to be disseminated. They're looking for a general manager, so that's a bit of HR, and I know I have no direct experience in transportation, but I think I have a lot of indirect experience. It could be an asset to the group, and it's going to be a large group. I know J.D. Pachariva from Lincoln very well, and so I think I could be happy to bring back reports on a regular basis, how often we meet, about the success of this commission, and I just want to be a willing participant in something that is very complex. Looking at the region itself, it's as large as Toronto, and so moving transit intermunicipally through all 12 municipalities is going to be a challenge, and it's nice to be able to serve on the ground floor when we're putting this all together. So I'm open-minded, and I think I could be a very good asset on this commission. So that's why I'd like to put my name forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. We'll move to Regional Councillor Furtick.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. Maybe just to give you a little bit of back history, while I was an alderman in Grimsby, I spent 10 years on the Transportation Strategy Steering Committee, which covered a lot of the transportation, and it's entirely within the entire region. It's not just Grimsby, it's in the entire region. The last 2 years, I have been the vice chair of the Transportation Steering Committee. It's kind of nice to have your peers elect you into a position like that. I am also the vice chair of the Lincoln Niagara Transit, the LNT committee, which is the committee that has formed the amalgamation of the entire transportation, again, within Niagara region. So I've been a pretty good player in regards to all of the transportation systems. I think our commissioner, our director, I guess, Matt Robinson, has helped lead the way, and it's a pretty strong committee. The chairman of the LNT committee, of which I'm the vice chair, happens to be Matt Sisko, which is directly involved with the transportation systems within St. Catharines. Again, a very strong leader, and it's going to need strong people within the organization in order to bring this forward. This is going to be quite a task. I could read to you about 15 items that we have done within the LNT system over the last couple of years. But there's no sense reading that to you. Just to, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and I certainly wish to carry on and help the Niagara Transit System. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Furtick. The clerk is going to conduct a straw poll now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's two candidates, Councillor Dunstall and Regional Councillor Furtick. So we're just going to do a straw vote. Councillor Bothwell? If you can state one of the two, sorry.
Councillor Furtick.
Councillor Dunstall? Councillor Frake?
Councillor Furtick.
Councillor Cadwell?
Councillor Furtick.
Councillor Ritchie?
Councillor Dunstall.
Councillor Sharp?
Councillor Dunstall.
Councillor Bain?
Dunstall, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Councillor Dunstall?
Okay. Councillor Vardy?
Councillor Furtick.
Mayor Jordan?
Councillor Furtick.
2, 3, 4. Furtick. Can we pass this?
All right, we need a mover and seconder for this. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that Council appoint Regional Councillor Furtick as the representative for the town of Grinsby on the Transitional Transit Commission. Recorded vote. So I guess it's on there, right?
Councillor Bothwell?
Yes.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
Yes.
Councillor Cadwell?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Bain?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
That's carried.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mayor, for the consideration.
Congratulations, Councillor Furtick. We're going to be busy.
I will respect your wills.
All right, now we move to need a mover and seconder for the tax collection policy bylaw. Moved by Councillor Frake. Second, Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 22-26 and that same be read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. Need a mover and seconder for the second and third reading? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Sharp. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Sharp. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 22-26, read a first time, now be read a second and third time, and finally passed. The mayor and town clerk do sign and seal the same, and rule council to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor? That's carried. All right, now we move to the announcement portion of our meeting. I just have one to lead off with. The Grinsby Peach Kings, I want to congratulate them on moving to the South Conference of the PJHL Finals. The first game will be Friday, April 22nd at 7:30 p.m. against the New Hamburg Firebirds. So everyone be there at the PKC for Friday, and that's at 7:30. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I just have one announcement, and that's about this weekend on Saturday. That's April 23rd from 9 until noon. We are doing the Great Lakes Watershed Cleanup. It's a Rotary-sponsored event. There is a sign-up for it, and I'm captain of the 40 Mile Creek. We do this thing with the Friends of the 40, and we're involved in that. But I do know from speaking with the Rotary that right now they have 70 volunteers, but they are short volunteers in the Winston Road area. And so they have volunteers on the waterfront trail, but there are areas of Winston Road that go basically from Hunter Road to the 50 Point outskirts of Grimsby. And in the ditches and waterways beside the roads there is some areas to clean up. So if anyone is interested, any of the service groups, maybe the cadets, or I know it's short notice, Saturday, it's only 3 hours, 9 till noon. And for the residents in the neighborhoods, it's a great time the day after Earth Day to spend some time picking up the recycle and garbage that have fallen out of the bins on Recycle Day, and just clean up your streets a little. We would appreciate that, and the neighborhoods would look nicer. So that's all I have to announce. That's this Saturday, April 23rd from 9 till noon. You can follow me online for the link to the registration. Thanks.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to give people, I know you heard about the bell box murals a little bit when Ms. Sweeney made her presentation about what we're doing for Grimsby 100. But just like to give you a little more background about that. Basically, artists will be invited to come and paint certain bell boxes with murals, and the theme will be related to Grimsby's 100. And I think if you've noticed any of these in Toronto or other places, it's worth Googling to see, because it really does beautify our town. And I think it's really such a great initiative, and I really want to give a shout out to Adrienne Brown, who's a member of the Art Gallery board, because she's the one who's done all the groundwork on getting this going and identifying the potential boxes to be painted. So we've submitted 10 boxes, of which they will choose 8, but we've tried to make sure that they were representative of all parts of Grimsby, so that everybody in every area will have at least one pretty box to look at. Thank you.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I'd like to announce that there's a fantastic entertainment event coming up on May the 14th. It's called the Spring Swing. It's going to be hosted by the Toronto All-Star Big Band. There's 20-odd young people dressed up in black and white in tuxedos and playing big band music to the likes of Benny Goodman, Glenn Miller. They have 4 singers, crooners, who will be singing Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, and so on and so forth. It's a great event. It certainly will give, and it falls right into our celebrations of the 100th centennial of 100th birthday, because this music comes from the 1920s, so it's in there. So it's a black tie affair, but not necessarily mandatory. So put on your dancing shoes, buy a ticket. It's May the 14th, and look forward to seeing you there. I got my shoes brushed off, and I've got my tuxedo all ready to go. So hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thanks, Mayor. Just want to remind everybody that the Goose Book Arts Fair, the 44th annual Goose Book Arts Fair, is Saturday, April the 30th, 2022, from 9 to 5 p.m. Free admission. Councillor Vardy, hope I'm not stepping on your toes with this. It is put on by the Art Gallery and that group, and it's been going on for many, many years. People really look forward to it. Since 1979 it's been going on. People come from all over Ontario, Quebec, and the northeastern states. There's roughly 2,500 people who used to attend. There won't be quite as many with COVID. I know there'll be a little bit more, it'll be a little smaller group, but it's still an exciting event to celebrate the art of the handmade books and the exhibitors that display their work and provide demonstrations on traditional book arts practices. And there's lots of neat things to pick up and buy. So I would encourage everyone, it's a great free outing to see some cultural and artwork here at the Goose Book Arts Fair. It'll be in the Art Gallery and Library Combined Building on Saturday, April 30th from 9 to 5. Free admission. Thank you.
Councillor Bain.
Thank you. I just wanted to add on to Councillor Sharp's comments about the cleanup. 5 years ago, I organized one, and it was just done through a local group, local neighbors. And actually, we did have a church group that showed up to help us as well, which was great. But just in a matter of about 2 or 3 hours, and we only did from Hunter Road to Oaks Road. We didn't do all the way to 50 Point, but we collected 50 bags of garbage and recycling and 1 motor. So there was a lot to be collected back then, and that was 5 years ago. So I really encourage local residents to, come out again, and it was a lot of fun. We all kind of just joked around, but everybody did their own thing. But it's still, there's a lot of garbage that gets piled up there. It blows out of recycling boxes and everything. So just to add on to Councillor Sharp's thing, that's all. Thank you.
Great, we look forward to seeing you there. Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Jordan. I just had one more that I missed. Coming soon in Grimsby will be our last hurrah. It's a reunion for the Grimsby Secondary School, and that will be on May 21st of this year. It's at the Peach King Center. Friday night is at the high school. Saturday night is at the Peach King Center. There are tickets available online. If you purchased your ticket in 2020, those tickets are still valid, and you don't have to pay any more. But the tickets are now online. They're $25 for Friday night, $30 for Saturday night, or $45 for both nights. Again, that's May 21st. That's the long weekend in May, Victoria Day. Friday at the high school, Saturday at the Peach King Center. Lots of events and things going on. It says online that your ticket purchase does come with a souvenir badge, some kind of memorabilia, probably a lanyard and something that you wear around that says, "My name is," so we can remember who we are, because, I'm a younger alumni, but some of us are many years away from our days at Grimsby Secondary School, and there's only one more year left to have that school open. So it'll be a great party happening on the May long weekend. You can get your tickets online. Again, if you follow me, I will post the links. Thanks.
Councillor Frick.
Sorry, Mayor Jordan, I just wanted to add on a little something to what I announced a little while ago about the spring swing. It's all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds are going to the Grimsby Historical Society, very befitting considering the year. It's going to be held at Wolverton Hall. And again, it's on May the 14th, and you can get your tickets online. It's posted on Instagram, and it's posted on Facebook and a few other places. So it's easy to find. And yeah, I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the announcements, Council. The next meeting of Council is scheduled for May 2nd, 2022, immediately following the Committee of the Whole. Now we're moving into closed session. Electronic participation, closed session statement declaration. Good evening, members of council. Before we begin the closed session, all members are reminded that any discussions in closed are to remain confidential as per our procedural bylaw and our code of conduct for the council of the town of Grinsby. Before we begin, I need each member that is attending electronically to confirm the following: that you understand that matters are to remain confidential, confirm that no one else is present with you, confirm that no one else can hear this closed session, confirm that you are not using any electronic devices other than your tablet or computer for the purpose of this video conferencing only, and confirm that you are not recording this portion of this meeting. If you acknowledge all of the above, please reply with "I understand" and confirm to all of the above. Councillor Bothwell?
I understand and confirmed all the statements.
Councillor Frake?
I understand and confirmed all the statements.
Councillor Ritchie?
I understand and confirmed all the statements.
Councillor Bain?
I understand and confirmed all the statements.
All right, we need a mover and seconder for the resolution to move into closed. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Dunstall. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that council meet in closed session under section 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically regarding library board appointments. All in favor to move into closed? All right, we now are into closed. right, we've moved out of close, so welcome back to the public. Just need a mover and seconder for the items coming out of closed.
I'll move it.
Moved by Councillor Bain, second by Councillor Bothwell. Moved by Councillor Bain, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that confidential report GPL 22-01 dated April 18, 2022 be received and that staff proceed with the appointment. All in favor? That's carried. I need a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 22-27 and that same be read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. Mover and seconder for the second and third reading. Moved by Councillor Frake, seconder, Councillor Dunstall. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 22-27 read a first time, now be read a second and third time, and finally passed, and the mayor and town clerk do sign and seal the same, and rule councils to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor?
Yes.
That's carried. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.